Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, December 2nd, 2020 at 6 p.m. and 6:02 p.m. and I am calling this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. As always, we are audio and video recording this meeting. It will be streamed live on YouTube, and it will be a recording of it will be broadcast on repeat on Channel 9 per the Cable Television Committee. Public input may be provided several ways for this evening's meeting, via email, the email listed on the agenda, the telephone number on the agenda, and also via Zoom. And so with that, I ask that everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please, and remain standing after. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, and remain standing, I'm sorry. Selectman Goulart, you're muted. My apologies.
Am I okay now?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, since our last meeting, I want to mention the passing of Hazel Pilling and Karen Maddox. And in their memory, I would ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And as always, our condolences to their family and friends as well. The first item on the agenda is a poll hearing for Tremont Street.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
Underneath the moment of silence, also we had Pearl.
Yes. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So with that, we have a proclamation, and we've been doing them every month. And I thought when Mrs. Kerwin and I were discussing what we were going to do for the month of December, we both came to the agreement that Pearl Harbor was a very fitting proclamation. And so do we have our veterans agent, Don Hershey, on the line to present the proclamation and read it? You may have to unmute yourself. I'm trying to see, there's two people it could be. I have Mr. Hershey's cell phone. None of these numbers look like his. Ah,
There he is.
the iPad. It's the iPad, okay.
He's muted.
Yep, he just has to click the unmute button. We'll give him a moment. We're in no rush.
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Yes.
perfectly. Thank you, Mr. Hershey.
Took a while.
No worries. We're patient.
I'm using my wife's tablet. I'm not using it. Okay.
No worries.
All right. Is it my turn?
Yes.
It is, sir. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. In the 1930s, Japan took control of the Pacific Rim countries such as Korea, China, Southeast Asia, and the Philippines. With slave labor from those countries, they were fortified for war. By 1941, Japan was ready, and with a peace envoy in Washington, D.C., they attacked the U.S. Pacific Fleet, sleeping at anchor on Sunday, December 7th in Hawaii, 8 a.m. The next day, Japan declared war on the U.S. In that attack, 2,403 Americans were killed and 1,178 were wounded. The sacrifices of our men and women in uniform are legendary. However, now as the U.S. lurches towards socialism, our freedom and liberties are taken away by a generation that never served this country in uniform or sacrificed for it in any way. The World War II veterans know that we have failed to keep the torch of freedom lit, but they can rest knowing they fulfilled their duty. They gave so much and asked for so little in return. Thank you.
Mr. Hershey, did you want to read the proclamation? Do you have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
You have the floor, sir.
Proclamation is as follows. Whereas Congress has designated December 7th as National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, and December 7th, 2020 marks the 79th anniversary of the attack on the United States Naval Base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, where more than 2,400 people perished and more than 1,100 were wounded. And whereas this surprise attack by the military forces of Imperial Japan, which was described by Franklin D. Roosevelt as a date which will live in infamy, led to the escalation of World War II. And whereas we wish to honor the brave men and women who served in that war and to reflect on the sacrifices of so many others who have shared their devotion to duty and freedom. Whereas it is appropriate that all citizens remember the bravery of those who served their country so that their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Dayton, recognize Monday, December 7th, 2020 as National Pearl Harbor Day and urge all the citizens of the Town of Dayton to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hershey.
Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the proclamation as presented.
So move.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Hershey. I appreciate it. And while I have you here, I did just want to thank you for your service as the Veterans Agent over the past years. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, sir. And I've had the pleasure of working with all the departments in town. Everyone has cooperated to the utmost.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dawn.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we have, and we're a little behind schedule, so I apologize. We have a poll hearing for Tremont Street. And so do we have a representative from,
National Grid?
yes, sorry, I was just
Yep.
scrolling through the agenda. My apologies.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I'm that 508-730 number you were talking about earlier.
Thank you. And just for the record, may we have your name?
John Doherty?
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a request here, and it's to install 15 new poles in order to close the gap in the primary and secondary conductor between pole 65 and 99 Tremont Street. Also installing 2 new intermediate poles between pole 59 and 63 due to long conductor spans, all work being done for the new solar farm at 903 Tremont Street. And so did you want to speak to the request at all before we open it up to potential questions?
No, it's pretty cut and clear here. Basically, we have a wide section. We have no wires on Tremont Street, like it says, between pole 65 and pole 99. The existing poles need to be upgraded. The wire needs to be upgraded, but the new poles will help and assist, like it says, closing the gap in order to bring three-phase primary power down to that solar farm.
Thank you, sir. We did receive, if you just bear with me 1 second, I don't have a paper copy, so I have to scroll and it just takes me a second. We did receive a piece of correspondence from our superintendent at the Dayton Water District, Jeff Clunan.
Okay.
And so do you mind if I just read that to you so we can see if this concern that's raised can be addressed?
Yeah, you can read. I've already seen it. You
okay.
can read it, but you can read it for others listening if you like.
Thank you, sir. And I'm glad to hear that you had received it beforehand as well. He just wrote on December 1st that he'd like to add some concerns about the poles on Tremont Street. The side of the road that the poles are proposed to be installed has an 8-inch plastic water main, and the water main is located off the street where the poles are proposed to be installed. We, meaning the Dayton Water District, do not have records or drawings of its depth or location. I'm also aware that it was installed with several bends, which will complicate the situation. Further, we will not be able to provide adequate dig safe marks for the water main's location. It would be beneficial for the owner of the poles and the water district to install the poles on the opposite side of the street to avoid any catastrophic failures, which we would hold the excavator responsible for. And so that came from the superintendent of the Dayton Water District. I assume you had a response to that?
I haven't responded to him as I saw it this afternoon for the first time. However, what he is requesting is not a problem. We can move it to the other side of the road. We had it on the existing side that we presented it mainly because it's a straight shot between poles.
Sure.
But we could move it to the other side. I'd have to add an anchor or two, but it can be done.
Selectman Pacheco and Selectman Goulart,
Yeah,
are you okay with the compromise on that?
Yes, I am. It's what the superintendent would like, so I'm in favor of it.
Yes, I certainly support that. So, Mr. Doherty, just to make sure, instead of having these new poles installed on the north side, they're going to be on the south side of Tremont Street.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman.
Colleagues, did anyone have any other questions regarding this request?
I don't.
I'm just curious, are the poles that are stored at Mannheim, New England, some of the poles you're going to install?
I don't believe those are ours. I believe those might be TMLTs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know of any poles being stored down there from us for a project or anything.
Okay. There's a pile of poles. Have you run short? Just kidding.
Good to know.
Any further comments, questions, concerns before I entertain motions regarding the request?
No.
Okay, I will entertain motions pursuant to this request.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant the request of Mass Electric, National Grid, I know they use these names interchangeably, to install 15 new poles on the south side of Tremont Street with secondary conductors between poles 65 and 99 Tremont Street, and 2 new intermediate poles between 59 and 63 Tremont Street. Work being done for the new solar farm at 903 Tremont Street.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Before we take a vote, I just wanted to ask Selectman Goulart, that covers the agreed to change by the Water District and the National Grid, correct?
That's why I said the south side.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because the original proposals.
I only work in left, right, back and forth, so it throws me off. So I appreciate it.
I do have one question. Mr. Doherty, since we're talking about the solar farm on 903 Tremont Street, where will the power that's at Middle Street, will it come through the Tremont Street location to get to these poles?
No, Middle Street will come from a different direction.
Do they have sufficient poles?
Yes, they're fine. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. And thank you very much, sir, for coming. We appreciate it. We do have another request, don't we, though?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not through with him yet.
Oh, okay,
No,
so
you're
he's
doing
here
the,
for that
no.
one as well. Double duty, Mr. Doherty. Okay.
It seems so. That's okay though.
And so we also, I know we have a request to move a poll regarding the Aggies school. And so did you just want to present a little bit on that? Just for people, the three of us, the selectmen, understand the request, but.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, I came in front of you to actually relocate pole 13, 15 feet from its current location.
Mhm.
What happened was when we went out there to do that, we hit a concrete barrier, which we thought was ledge,
Mhm.
but come to find out it's an existing underground cement duct that was not dig safed out when we started to use the auger.
Mhm.
So because of the length of that duct, we can no longer relocate the pole where we wanted to. So what needs to be done is we need to put another pole a little further down on the other side of the driveway, about 35 feet from pole 12, as opposed to relocating pole 13. So basically, we need to add another pole.
Okay. And thank you for the explanation. Selectman Goulart and Selectman Pacheco, we were there yesterday, and I think we got to see where it would be potentially be located. Where the new pole would go. Do we have any questions for Mr. Doherty about that before we take a vote?
I don't know. I'm okay with it.
I'm okay. We saw the location yesterday, Mr. Doherty.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
All right, I will entertain motions regarding the this request for the Aggie school.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request of National Grid and Verizon New England for the installation of pole 12-50 on Center Street in order to install three-phase power to the school based on the diagram that was submitted.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? And again, for anyone who's watching who may not be familiar with what we're talking about, this information along with the graphic is in the packet. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Mr. Doherty, you did double duty, but you did it well, and we thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
You as well,
Thank you.
sir.
Roll
Bye-bye.
call.
Aye.
Aye. We did it at the same time. We did it though, Karen. Selectman Pacheco and I. So we're right on time, surprisingly. Good job, everybody. For the discussion on the CARES Act expenditure, both the disinfectant foggers as well as 2 video laryngoscopes with our fire chief, Chris McGee. Chief, I'm sorry, you might be muted.
Mr. Chairman, what about the 6? All right, we ended at 6:30. Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay.
So what agenda item are we on?
We're under scheduled appointments, Selectman Goulart. We had a 6 p.m. and then we have a 6:20
right.
with Chief McGee, and then
Okay.
a 6:30 with the building commissioner.
Okay, so both of these CARES, are these with Chief McGee?
They are. They're
Okay.
both with Chief McGee. Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. No worries. Hi, Chief.
We doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
So we're here to discuss both the disinfectant foggers and the 2 video laryngoscopes. And really what we're discussing is approving you to, obtain these items, and then we will submit it for a CARES reimbursement. And so did you want to present both of these items? I know you're much more knowledgeable on them than I am. So
Sure,
here's the floor.
sure. Which one would you like to start with?
We can start with the disinfectant foggers if you'd like.
Okay, so these are two units that I'm looking to purchase. One unit is more suited for disinfecting vehicles such as the police cruisers, the ambulance, the fire apparatus. With that said, it can also be used to disinfect smaller office spaces, such as smaller areas like the accounting office, my office. It's just for smaller spaces. The second unit is for larger spaces such as the Selectmen's meeting room, bigger square footage areas. The technology uses hydrogen peroxide and actually silver. The hydrogen peroxide is used to break the shell of the COVID, just speaking towards COVID virus, it will actually break the molecule so that way the silver can get inside and kill the virus itself. I've had the demo done at the fire station of the units. They work very, very well. They come with test strips that you can actually locate in different places to see that it got to the locations. In the ambulance, we did the passengers compartment and we did the patient compartment, and we put them in locations such as under the dashboard, in outside cabinets, and it actually disinfected all those areas. So I guess my purchase, in procuring them, I would also not just include the use within the fire department, but we could utilize it in the police stations or the police station. We could disinfect cells after prisoners have been in there. I've been doing that for the police department with the electrostatic gun that we have, but this kills more than what that gun is capable of. This unit will actually kill C. diff and all those diseases, and it's really a nice unit. So the total cost for the two is $25,248. I'm not sure if you have that quote in front of you.
Can
Yes.
I ask you a question about this, Chief?
Absolutely.
So I guess I have a comment and then a question. So the comment is, I knew nothing about this when you had first described what a disinfectant fogger was.
Yep.
And then I realized after a little bit of outreach that our former town administrator, I guess they must have one in Swansea. And
do.
I guess she's used it and said it's like a miracle. So I guess firsthand anecdotal evidence, not having known really what it was at that time, knowing that it worked. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I felt a little bit better about that. The other thing I did, Chief, in doing the research, and I know you know more about FEMA reimbursement than I do. I'm certainly not an expert, but I did look at what types of things are eligible for a FEMA reimbursement. And so just for folks watching, when something is eligible for a FEMA reimbursement, you can get up to a 75% coverage of costs, right? And so when looking at the types of things that are eligible, and here's my question, Chief, it's stated on the FEMA website that costs for disinfection of public facilities or eligible public facilities, as they put it, would be eligible theoretically for a FEMA reimbursement. Do we know if CARES covers 25% of this, if it's eligible? Will FEMA cover the other 75%? And again, for my colleagues, this would be a reimbursement.
So FEMA will only cover the 75%. I actually had a webinar this morning on this. They'll only cover the 75% if that unit is being used in direct relation with emergency medical services towards the disinfecting unit.
Okay.
It will not cover it if you're purchasing it to do town hall, because town hall's not doing direct COVID related medical type of stuff. So it has to be directly related to the COVID outbreak itself and the services that are being provided to stop it. Does that make sense?
Understood. I guess my secondary question on that, and I apologize for belaboring the point, since technically these items are being purchased and used for let's call it public safety, because they're sort of on the front lines in terms of risk to exposure, at least right now. Even though these items could be used in other public facilities, because they're quote unquote primary use and primary storage would be a public facility. Does that qualify them or make them more likely for a FEMA reimbursement or no? Or maybe we don't know, and I apologize.
It would if they're being purchased for the fire department, for the ambulance, and that's where they're staying. That make sense?
Yep,
That's the answer to the question.
yes, that is the answer to the question. It's not changing, and I accept that.
Chief McGee, just a follow-up question. So we are purchasing this for the fire department ambulance. Since police officers are first responders, if they show up with a cruiser before the fire truck, ambulance gets there, I would assume it would be okay to disinfect that cruiser.
Correct.
Okay, so the primary use is fire department, and it secondary, so to speak, because they're first responders too. Police equipment would be covered.
Correct.
Okay, fine.
So I have a question, Chief. It can't be used though for the Selectmen's meeting room though, right? You're asking that FEMA and the CARES Act pay for it for your personal use or your department's personal use, but it can also be used because you're asking for the larger one. You also can be used for the Selectmen's meeting room if there was a request for that. Is that correct?
Correct. We can if it's, we can, yes. It would have to, it would be for the prevention of the spread of the virus.
Yes.
In other words, if we thought there was somebody in that space that had it and there was a contact tracing issue, then we can use it to disinfect that space.
And who would operate these machines? Is it?
So my original thought is because of the cost of the units and the training to run them, that I would put a personnel with them or a member of my department, and we'd go disinfect whatever needs to be disinfected at the time.
Good. Thank you.
Regarding this specific expenditure request, do we have any other questions?
I don't.
No,
I don't have any either. So with that, colleagues, I will entertain a motion.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant the request of Chief McGee to purchase a Halo Fogger EXT upgrade, Halo Fog, and a Halo Fogger STD with all peripheral equipment as included on the quote for a total amount of $25,248.
I'll second that motion.
We have a, oops, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, do I have to add, and that it should be submitted for FEMA and CARES reimbursement? Should I
You can.
designate
We're gonna
that?
do, I'm sure the chief will do it, so, with the accountant, of course.
Should I say that in the motion, Chief, do you think?
You
Can't hurt
can,
it.
you can, that's fine, yeah.
All right, so Mrs. Brady, after I said the dollars, and so approve the $25,248, and that this will be submitted for CARES and FEMA reimbursement if applicable.
And I'll second that also.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion under this item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, Chief. And the next roll call, excuse me. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Chief, did you want to present the 2 video laryngoscopes as well, please?
Sure. So as COVID's gone on, I had a discussion last week with my medical director, John Gauthier, and we talked about, COVID is pretty much a pulmonary kind of issue with coughing and wheezing and, other things like that. And intubations, when they have to do an airway on a patient, you have to get really up close and personal with a patient. When you're doing this, you're basically face to face because it's an invasive maneuver. They have to visually see the ET tube go through the vocal cords. So they're right in a patient's face who could be aspirating or breathing out on them agonally or whatever. So we thought it was appropriate for this funding to do the video laryngoscopes, which allows separation, a good amount of separation between the patient and the caregiver or the paramedic to be able to do the maneuver. The quotes here, the additional things below it are basically tips that attach to it to be able to place the tube in raising the airway. So it's $2,289.84. And again, it's just being so close, this will allow separation between the patient and the paramedic.
Thank you, Chief. Colleagues, do we have questions for the chief regarding this request?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you think that the CARES Act and FEMA will cover this? Is this something that they would cover?
I'm not sure that FEMA will, but the CARES Act definitely will.
Chief, can I ask a question based off his Selectman Pacheco's question?
Yep.
And so it's just the brass tacks question. So if 25% of this quoted request is covered by CARES,
Yep.
how are we, as you know, if we approve this, where is the other 75% going to come from?
So if it has to, it can come out of my medical supplies line. If we can't, I'll have to talk to Chris Laviolette and see if the FEMA PA part of it will cover the other 75. If not, then I have it in my medical supply line to be able to grab the other 75%.
When you say the PA, you mean like that public assistance part of FEMA?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, Chief, I'm just trying to visualize this. So right now, if you have to insert an airway, you literally have to look down the person's throat.
Correct.
And so, of course, you're right on top of them, so to speak. And with this instrument, you can thread the scope, and as it's being threaded, it's showing you where it's going.
Yeah, it's got a little, it's actually got a handheld unit to open the airway, and then there's a screen on top that you're looking through with a camera down on the end of the blade to see the vocal cords.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought you were saying. Okay, thank you. Yeah, no other questions. Sounds good to me.
If there are no other questions, I'm happy to entertain motions.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the request of Chief McGee that he be allowed to purchase a two laryngoscope. Two?
Yeah, that would be what it is one for each ambulance.
Okay, two laryngoscopes with peripheral equipment at a total cost of $2,289.84, and that this be submitted for CARES and FEMA reimbursement if applicable.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
I just want to make a comment.
I'm sorry, Selectman Pacheco.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that even if
Sure.
FEMA doesn't cover the 3/4 of it, it sounds like it's something that's worthwhile for the town to have for the ambulance employee.
I agree.
Chief, thank you for bringing this to me. It was a nice discussion that we had. You know that December end of month deadline is we're knocking on that door. So if there's anything else that's needed, we have another meeting in December. So please keep that in mind.
Right. Yep. Thank you. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you listening to this.
Thank you, sir. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Chief, thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
Be safe. Okay. Now we have and we're 6 minutes behind, so I apologize, Mr. Commissioner. You're used to it, though. A discuss and vote on the scope of work for the Dayton Elementary School, Dayton Middle School roadway project. Just so everyone is aware, This information was also forwarded as it, involves schools in the district, to the school committee chair, Mr. O'Connor, Superintendent Azar as well. And so with that, Mr. Commissioner, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, how are you doing, sir?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
You have the floor. And I was just saying we did invite and send the information to the school, school district as well.
Okay, very well. All right, I know we're running behind, so I'll try to keep it pithy. This item is before you because we have a project, as we've all discussed in the past, of trying to rectify some of the congestion issues over at DES-DMS. This happened well over a year ago, started well over a year ago. The three players were myself, Tom Ferry, and the town administrator. When we started, we vetted engineering firms for two things. One, when you get a project this size, it's hard to find local engineers with the manpower or horsepower to do a project of this scope. We didn't, however, want to go into the large metro areas because they tend to add zeros to the end of their contracts, and we knew this was going to be an expensive one. So we put our minds together. Zenith Consulting is a known engineer. They are large enough to handle a project of this size, yet not too large where they're going to hurt or take advantage of the taxpayer. So we retained them to do a conceptual drawing back a year ago, just about a year ago actually, which we presented. And then we asked them for a full scope of services based on the site requirements and the discussions that we had. And that brings us to this scope of service, a scope of work contract, which, as you know, the taxpayers appropriated funding for at the special town meeting. So now we'd like to move forward with the actual design of the project. We had a tentative meeting set up for Friday with the engineer, if the selectmen are in favor of that. So I'll take any questions if you have any.
Board members, did you have any questions? And then what I will do is, I know we have the school committee chairs also on the line, so we'll open it up to questions in case he may have any as well. Selectman Pacheco?
Yes, so what is the cost of this? Am I seeing it's 73,000? Is that the estimate?
73,000 is the cost for the project scope, and then there's a 15% overage allowance for expenses. So that's why the warrant article was for 80,000 and change.
Okay.
What time is the meeting on Friday?
Right now, it's set up tentatively for 8 a.m. Tom Ferry may run a little bit late, so it may be 8:30, but it's supposed to take place Friday morning about that time.
Where? Or is it?
DES-DMS at the site. You're more than welcome to join us.
Are we inside or outside or both?
Mostly outside, Selectman Goulart.
All right, so 8 o'clock this Friday at, I assume we'll start out at the middle school.
Yes.
All right, so that's December 4th. I'm just, at 8 o'clock in the morning, are we going to be free of buses and people with cars coming in and dropping off and whatever?
I actually think we're going to push it a little bit later because of that. So if you'd like to join us, I can get in touch with you tomorrow.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Selectman Goulart, did you have any questions regarding the actual agreement, the draft, excuse me?
No, I don't.
So I have a question for the chairman.
Sure.
So if I also attend, does that have to be posted?
That was my next, yeah, it would have to be Selectman Pacheco, yes.
No, I don't, I don't think so, because the board is not going to be taking any action. I really think we can handle this the way we did our trip on the boat. Remember, we went on the boat to get, I'm going there to just visually see what we're talking about and get information, because I've seen all this on paper.
Mhm.
I'm certainly not going to be prepared to get into discussions or anything else. When we were on the boat, the town boat, Dr. Z, Ken and I asked questions, but it was really just general information because, well, I know I'm not a seaman, so I had a lot of questions about the boat. And the other thing too is we weren't posted yesterday, were we?
No, I was going to say that because
Yeah,
we asked questions, but we didn't have any vote that we were going to take or anything like
yeah.
that.
So
I just wanted to be, we can all go on Friday. Whoever can go. But this is a project, unlike the Aggie School, that may come back to us at some point for something. So we should just let the building commissioner and the experts do the talking. We'll take notes and be there sort of,
okay, but
observing.
it's not like the Aggie School, because that was a tour of a facility that we aren't per se directly connected to. It's not our project, even though our town will help pay for that. But when we were on the town boat,
Yep.
the information that we gathered was just background information, so that when we sat down as a board and started to talk about the money that was in the request for works and repairs, we could at least say, oh yeah, we saw that and that needs work, or this could be put aside or delayed. So that's all I'm thinking about. Mr.
That's
Pacheco,
fine.
are you in agreement with that?
Yes, I am. So, Mr. Commissioner, if you're going to change the time, could you just text me?
Sure. Yes, I'll text the entire board with a solid time. I'm sorry I don't have that. It's been a little fluid.
That's
Tom and I both have obligations, and I want to make sure the engineer's available. But Selectman Goulart, we agree that we want to make sure we have the run of the place, and we don't want to be dodging buses and whatnot. Although you will see bird's eye what the problem is.
I can visualize it.
Mr. Commissioner?
All right, yeah,
Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
Can we be sure that we also include at least the chairperson of the school committee as well, Mr. O'Connor, and he can feed the information to the school committee as he sees fit. I just want to make sure
Absolutely.
that we involve them. Like you keep us updated.
Yeah.
I want to keep them updated as well.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that Mrs. Brady sends out a formal email to everyone tomorrow once we have the time firmed up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Before we go back to additional board questions, if there are any, I do want to ask at this time if there's anyone with the Dayton Rehoboth Regional School District or School Committee who has any questions or comments regarding this proposal.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Tom O'Connor from the school
Good
committee.
evening.
Thanks for giving me a few seconds here. I appreciate you forwarding everything to us because, as I mentioned to you last week, or maybe it was a week and a half ago, I hadn't seen any of the conceptual stuff or even seen any of the engineering plans or any of the lead up to it. I think because it started before I got on the committee. But I do appreciate you forwarding it, and I also appreciate you asking about Friday, because that was going to be my question tonight. Was, hey, can I hop in on that also, just to kind of get a? I mean, I've lived that traffic pattern, so I understand. But I'd like to see if it's possible. I'd like to come by Friday. I think I can swing it with work, so I'd like to come by and be able to just be a fly on the wall and get an understanding, because I would like to report out to the committee on our next meeting is on Tuesday the 8th. So I would like to report out to the full committee on Tuesday if I could.
Sure. I'd look forward to that. And if you have any logistical problem getting there on Friday, we'd be happy to meet with you another day if need be.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. That's all I have for questions. I did take a quick look at the plans that I got. I took a look today between a couple meetings. I didn't really get to dig into them too far, but I will certainly review them before Friday. And if I have any questions, I can talk to you offline afterwards, or if it's appropriate right there on Friday. But
excellent. Yep, that would be fine.
I appreciate it. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we appreciate it. Any further questions from the board regarding the proposal?
I just have a question.
Mhm.
I see that the ADA commissioner is on here. Should we hear from him? Should he participate in this Friday or not?
I think, no, initially, we're going to discuss the wetlands crossings and some of the locations to make sure we're all in agreement. I think after we get through that preliminary discussion, then that would be appropriate to bring the ADA coordinator in before we start putting pen to paper or hand to mouse creating anything. So it would be appropriate. I just don't think for Friday.
Sure. Thank you, Jim.
This is Mr. Gale, and that was somewhat going to be my question as well. I don't know if, I'm assuming there's a plan or a plan that's been drawn at this point. Can't even get the words out, I'm sorry. For the scope of the project at this point. So Commissioner, if you could share that with me for a minute. I have not seen anything or had anything sent to me for me to be able to take a cursory look at with regard to any of the disability questions that might arise. And at some point, I'd like an opportunity to do that before the scope of work contract is agreed to with an engineering company or the company that would be doing the project, so that we can take a look at it. And although potentially bring in, free of charge, of course, Mass Office of Disability has offered through the Disability Commission to take a look at any projects we want to do and give it a quick look. This is something they could do very, very quickly, but I think it's important for them to give us a look at it to make sure that we're doing everything that we need according to the state and federal specs.
Sure, that conceptual plan was brought to a public forum last year, but I'd be more than happy to email it to you tomorrow morning.
All right, if you would, I'd appreciate it. And then
Sure.
I can touch base with you tomorrow. So anything that I'm going to send over to anyone, I'd rather coordinate through you because you're much more well-versed on this than I'm certainly going to be visually and otherwise in many ways. I'd rather act as the conduit and have you be the direct source of contact.
Very well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Gale.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure, yeah, Selectman Goulart.
Just a comment. Personally, what I'm really focused on is the part about the wetlands, because this has come up at the Stormwater Committee meeting a couple of times. And I know it's, at least for our committee in conservation, that's really a big issue. And it's a big hurdle to get over. So that's really what I'm going to be focused on. That's why I'm interested in being out there at the site.
Mm-hmm. I do have I guess a logistical question for you, Mr. Commissioner.
Sure.
Is us not taking a vote, let me back up, my apologies. If the Board of Selectmen were not to take a vote this evening on this proposal, which I want to say for the record, I do feel comfortable voting for this because it's just for the scope of work and the engineering part of it, mostly pursuant to the wetlands as discussed. Is that going to impede anything? I know we'll still have the tour on Friday.
Well, I don't know if I'll get the engineer to come on Friday if we don't have a scope of work. That's sort of his kickoff meeting with us to get the project going. I would like to say, though, the engineering firm, any roadways that will be proposed must be compliant with the accessibility requirements through the state. And this project scope is not going to redo all of the sidewalk areas around each building. Any impacted for drainage or roadway reconstruction would certainly have to, be fixed or brought up to current standards. But this is not a complete retrofit of the perimeter sidewalk areas. This is just the parking areas and the roadways, and all of it that's impacted would therefore have to comply.
And I have another question actually about that. And I apologize if this is not a good question or a smart question. But us voting on this, or if the Board of Selectmen were to approve this tonight, how would us approving this, because my interpretation of this, what I'm seeing here is it's mostly an agreement that outlines the relationship between us and the company that will be performing the work. What if any are the impacts to anything to do with the American Americans with Disabilities Act. I just want to be very clear before we vote either way, so I have a better idea of what the concerns are being raised here.
I'm
And
not sure what the
if that's not
concerns,
an articulate question.
right. I'm not seeing a concern because the Architectural Access Board requirements, which is the regulatory statute that we have to follow, need to be adhered to irregardless of the work that's being done needs to comply with the applicable regulations. So whatever sidewalk areas, roadway areas, walkway areas, parking areas, et cetera, will all have to be compliant. So I'm not sure what the concern is. There's an obvious concern with some of the sidewalk areas around the school, but I'm not sure, and we can make it that it's part of the end project, but the engineer wasn't retained to redesign all of the sidewalk areas and entrances around the school.
And I guess my question is, so none of what you just mentioned, Mr. Commissioner, is related to what we're talking about tonight, this actual agreement for the engineering scope of services.
That is correct.
So there's by engaging in this agreement with Zenith, would the Board of Selectmen, are we actually telling them what plan they're going to do? That this is going to be reconstructed this way, etc.
Okay, I think I understand where you're going now. Is there some leeway in the end result? Well, yes, because the plan that was proposed was conceptual, but the plan is going to progress or evolve as it moves forward. What I want to make sure everybody understands, and I'm skimming the scope now to make sure that I'm correct, I don't see anything in here where the original discussion with the engineering firm back a year and so many months ago was going to reconstruct the sidewalk perimeter areas around the school, which is where I think our ADA coordinator has the most concerns. So I want to make sure that everyone's aware of that as we move forward.
So, Mr. Commissioner, this is really just dealing with the flow of traffic.
This is dealing with a few things.
How it flows and where it flows.
And the parking, having people cross live traffic when they park. We want to eliminate that. We want to eliminate some of the exterior storage areas which require people to move machinery through live traffic. So it is very involved. It just did not include reworking the sidewalk areas in their entirety. Now, I'm not saying that it can't be put into the final project when we go back to the taxpayer or wherever we go for funding. And knowing this engineer, I'm sure they'd be willing to add, indicators in the plan where, this entrance shall be reconstructed to be compliant. I'm not saying they won't do it. They're not going to look at the entire sidewalk area and put it down black and white in 2 dimensions, that reconstruct it all. That wasn't the original intent or scope.
I understand. And that is my understanding. Mr. Gale, sir,
let me suggest, I think because this is the scope of the plan and it's not the final product as the commissioner just alluded to, and because it's going to be subject to having some changes in drawings and so forth, I don't necessarily object to it. My only concern, and again, I haven't even had an opportunity to discuss this with anybody yet directly. My only concern is when we talk about, and I think when I'm hearing the commissioner talk about it, if I'm correct, is when we talk about, for example, they're not going to do the scope of all the sidewalks. I wouldn't expect them to, but what I would expect to be considered in the plan, and where I think we need to look at accessibility, is when they reconfigure, for example, the drop-off and pickup spots, because that does involve sidewalk, that does involve ramps, that does involve spacing for a potential van that have maybe a wheelchair vehicle for accessibility to have to stop and drop or even park, and then have accessible ramps to sidewalk area and so forth. That are clear sidewalk shots to the entrance of the building. So while you may not necessarily do all of the sidewalks, and I would agree with that, you have to make sure that the new sidewalk areas not only have the accessible ramps and so forth, but also that the point from A to B to get you to the door is fully accessible as well. So it does involve some of that. So I do think looking at a scope through an engineering company to do the scope does make sense. And I would support that, as an ADA coordinator, knowing that this is going to be somewhat fluid. And as long as these components, and we understand these are components that are going to have to be put into the plan going forward, so that when we look for the allocation of the actual expense for the project.
And Mr. Gale, I guess my comment on that is I feel like we're actually, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we're kind of all saying the same thing, where we understand this is just the scope of services,
Exactly.
engineering work, and that we can involve the Office of, you said it was the Office of Disabilities?
Mass Office of Disability.
Yep, Mass Office of Disabilities.
Exactly.
We can involve the ADA Commission and have them review everything before we go back to the taxpayer when we're actually going to do the project. And I also want to add that that was my intention all along. So,
Mr. Chairman, I can probably clarify, and maybe I should have said this at the onset. This scope of work also includes all of the permitting requirements needed locally and state if needed in order for this project to be put down into final form where we can go out to bid through an RFP process. That means it's going to go through public hearings. It'll be presented obviously to the Board of Selectmen, the school department. It's going to go through the planning board, scrutiny, stormwater scrutiny, and anybody, certainly Conservation Commission because of the wetlands that we're talking about. So this isn't going to happen overnight. This has been going on for a year, and I bet you it'll go on for another year before we bring this back to the taxpayer. Certainly, we'll try to do as best we can, but we want to make sure the end result is the perfect product.
Mm-hmm. I totally understand. I want to make sure that everyone who has a say gets to have that say before the project is, fully funded. And so we're all in agreement on that. But I do want to also say that I do feel, time knocking on the door. It has been a year. We did have the plans for a year. And I would like to see us get traction, especially when we had a unanimous vote at town meeting. I get the complaints all the time about the parking situation. So I would like to see us move forward on this this evening, knowing that we do have a lot of stakeholders that we're going to involve before we get to the point of a final plan, I guess we'll call it, when we go to the voters for funding. Selectman Goulart, I know I saw you had your hand up. I apologize.
Yeah, I want to reference page 4, scope of work.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for Mr. Gale benefit.
Mm-hmm.
My colleagues know that when we deal with engineering companies, we get things in phases. Like phase 1, if you do this, this is what happens. This is what we've done with working with Weston and Sampson. Wherever it is, they'll say, well, phase 1, you should do this. So this is laid out this way in phases. So if you look at phase 1, phase 1 is wetlands delineation. So it talks about all the things they have to do in order, because as I said, a real major issue to deal with the traffic and the safety issues at the school in this driveway is the wetlands. So if you notice, that's what is in phase 1, follow all that down. And then phase 2 is called site design and wetlands permitting. Again, we're still out in the swamp. We're out in the wetlands dealing with all of that. Now, what Mr. Gale is talking about, and I think what you've all alluded to, including Commissioner Aguirre,
Mm-hmm.
phase 3, site design, entire project for site plan approval. And I'm going to read this whole section because it's not that long. Task 1, site plans including all aspects of proposed project, $29,200. Tasks include those items associated with the areas that are outside of the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, and the compilation of comprehensive site plans and drainage analysis, including site layout, access driveway design, parking lot design, conduct soil evaluation for drainage, grading, drainage design, compile drainage report, prepare planning board filing requirements, prepare presentation materials, attendance at meetings, plan preparation and details, plan revisions, and project management. Cost estimate does not include sanitary sewer design, structural design if needed, and filing fees. But phase 3, I believe, is where Mr. Gale will get the kind of detailed information he's looking for. So I certainly support moving ahead with all phases, but I think that last section, phase 3, is kind of a overall description of what we've been talking about relative to ADA compliance and things like that.
So I just want to add, we've been discussing this for a half hour. We have 2 conservation agent candidates who we may have questions for who are on the line. So I would like us to move forward. Does anyone have any final words? Selectman Pacheco, do you want the final words, sir?
The final word is, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve and hire the Zenith Consultant Engineering LLC to do the scope of work for the DES roadway project.
At a cost of?
Well, it's a minimum of 73,000, but it could be higher than that.
Yeah, there was a couple if needed things on there.
Yeah,
So
so I'm
maybe
not
we
sure.
should just say up to whatever the total was from town meeting.
What was the total? Was it 80,000?
I believe
85.
I think it was 85,000.
It was
Thank-
85,000.
Up to $85,000.
Second?
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Mr. Commissioner, we'll see you
Yes.
Friday morning, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure that the administrative assistant has the time tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Aye.
Better chairman than I.
Aye.
Between the 3 of us, though, we got it covered.
Yes,
3 chairmen are better than 1.
yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda, and thank you everyone who participated in that discussion.
Dr. Z, do you want to take anything out of order?
What I would like to take out of order, if it's okay, would be, did you have something in particular? I was thinking to have the conservation agent,
8A?
if that's
8A?
okay with everyone.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we take agenda 8A out of order.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
And we did it again, Selectman Pacheco, right at the same time, but we did it. Okay, so at this time, we do have 2 candidates for conservation agent. And I know Mrs. Brady and members of the Conservation Commission were present, I believe Mr. Pilling as well, for the selection process, so the interviews, which many were conducted today. Normally, and this is for my Board of Selectmen colleagues now, Selectman Goulart, I'm especially looking at you. Normally, when we're in a room and we do this, we ask one candidate to leave the room while we're asking the other candidate questions. How does this work on Zoom? Do we ask one person to leave for a couple minutes?
I would say so.
Yeah. If it's okay with the board, Mrs. Caledonia, who is one of the candidates, is already unmuted. If it's okay, can we ask Mrs. Montanaro just to leave the meeting for approximately, let's say 10 minutes?
Yep, I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. That was easy. I didn't anticipate how to do that before the meeting. My apologies. Okay. Mrs. Caledonia, are you on the line?
Yes. Hi.
Hello. Nice to hear from you. And thank you for joining us on short notice.
No problem.
So we did receive your resume, and we did, and so we're all apprised of your credentials and your background. I wanted to, before I open it up to questions from the Board of Selectmen, did you have anything, like a brief statement you wanted to make or anything that you wanted to say to the board about your, about the role or about your experience?
I don't know if they read my cover letter or anything. But basically, I was the conservation agent there previously, before Charlie took over. I helped draft the Dayton's bylaw. And, I was one of the first ones I spearheaded the open space plan, and I really enjoyed working for the town. And if I didn't have my second child back then, I probably would have stayed. My kids are now 15 and 18, so things have changed for me. But in the meantime, I got a lot of private consulting work under my belt, and I figured I'd give it a try. The part-time thing works out for me, so hopefully we can make this work out for everyone. But yeah, I did want to say that, when I worked for the town before, I was very green. I was, just out of college and wanted to save the world. I even made the newspaper a few times back then, so I don't plan on that happening again. But I am happy. I would be happy to work with Bill Frenette and the crew again. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mrs.
Thank you.
Caledonia. With that, I did want to open it up to questions from my colleagues, if you have any. So Selectman Goulart, did you want to start us off?
Hi, Lisa. I remember you from Dayton. I was on the finance committee when you were the conservation agent.
Okay. Yeah, I knew your name sounded familiar.
Yeah. So as far as you understand, it's 25 hours?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously those hours would be arranged with the Conservation Commission. And I noticed you have a lot of experience with stormwater, which is a plus. We have a stormwater committee in town. It's been in existence, must be close to 3 years now, that oversees everything stormwater. I'm the current chairman of that committee, but reading that in your resume and your references and information, I found that very interesting because there's a lot of work we still have to do to keep up with our stormwater management plan, our IDDE, and our the other plan that we have to have relative to stormwater and management. It just goes on and on and on. So I don't really have a question other than what the hours are, what the compensation is that's proposed. And other than that, it was just a comment on the information you submitted. Pollution prevention plan is something we have been working on, and that's probably the one that has the biggest hole in it right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dayton needs to prepare the SWIP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did work on some of those, it was over 10 years ago, but I have worked on some of those. But, in whatever capacity I can help, I'd be happy to help with that.
Yeah.
Collaboration between boards seems to have improved over the years, so that sounds good.
Oh, you noticed. Thank you. No.
Yeah.
And I'll just end with the Stormwater Committee I refer to them as my team of experts. I represent the Board of Selectmen. We have Jim Aggie, our building commissioner. We have Todd Pilling, the health agent, Tom Pyers from the Board of Health, Bill Frenette from Conservation. There are 7 members. Who am I leaving out?
We're at
anyhow,
a bit of a time crunch.
We have a very good working relationship with other committees. So yes, you're right. So I thank you very much for applying.
All right, thank you. And so you want me to drop off for 10 minutes or?
Oh, no, we're not done yet. Sorry. So like Pacheco hasn't had a chance.
Yeah, I just want to make a brief comment. I'm impressed with your resume. You've done a lot of work in this field. But my question is, and I'm from the 60s, why don't you want to save the world? Why have
Why-
you given up on that? 'Cause
Why
I
have I given? Oh, well, I knew, well, no, I guess I just, it's baby steps. Now it's more like, I'd rather just, I'm satisfied educating people, talking to people and, you know, I don't need to convince every Percy Kingsley that he needs to save his property. I think people know,
May he
why
rest
we
in
need,
peace.
but yes.
Percy, he was a good man.
Yeah, definitely. But I think most everybody understands why we need to keep our water clean and why we need to keep the Clean Water Act. But I just, I don't know. The older I get, I guess I realize it's just I'm just part of a bigger group of people that's just trying to do their small part.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Caledonia?
Yeah.
So I did want to ask you, I did not have the pleasure of working with you when you were our conservation agent, but I did hear a lot of positive feedback on the work that you did while you were here, which made me happy to see that you had applied. So I was very pleased to see that. What about Dighton made you want to apply and possibly come back?
I like I told everybody this afternoon, the interview, Dighton to me, it's kind of like almost like hometown, but I think I like it and appreciate it a little bit more than the town I grew up in. I grew up in Bridgewater. Bridgewater just kind of like boomed and built out really quick, but Dighton's still that rural pastoral community, and it's, got the tidal influence and Taunton River. So, I really appreciate Dighton and natural diversity there. So that's probably the biggest reason. Yeah.
That's fabulous. And I know it's a little bit unrelated, so I apologize, but regarding the open space plan, your work was not in vain, Mrs. Caledonia. The Open Space Committee is about one meeting away from approving the open space plan and sending it both to Planning Board, Board of Selectmen, and also to the Massachusetts Division of Local Services.
Right.
And then it's a big deal because it opens us up for another round of community compact cabinet best practices, which is a partnership with the governor. And so I did just want to thank you for your work on that. And it wasn't
it's being updated right now. That's good.
Yep.
I did have another question too.
Sure.
And I don't know if you know the answer, but I had worked with one of the state reps to set up the 61A money was supposed to start when people went to develop their land. They had to pay back X amount of dollars in taxes, and that money was going to go into an open space fund. And I'm just wondering if that ended up ever happening. You don't have to answer me right now. I'm just wondering.
I think Selectman Goulart.
It didn't go into open space per open space committee. In Dighton, that money goes to the Conservation Commission and is under the control of it. And I can tell you, they have acquired almost all of Broad Cove.
Yeah.
The town of Dighton, and they acquired what we call Council Oak 2, which was some of the best farmland in Dighton. So that farmland now has both an agricultural, it was a joint project with the city of Taunton
wonderful
agency. So we now own prime farmland with both agricultural and conservation restrictions. That is being farmed. We lease it out, and Rujo Farms is actually farming it. Those are just some of the things that's happened with 61A money. So it's conservation.
Okay.
The open space we actually got as part of our, as Dr. Z said, our community compact cabinet. And along those lines, I will tell you, we can thank Dr. Z because his proposal, we had 3 best practices we submitted for CCC and all 3 got accepted. The one he came up with was Develop an Agricultural Commission, and we're the only community in the state who actually did that as a best practice, and that was Dr. Z's recommendation. So that's another reason why we're still, I'll say, rural.
Wonderful. That's good news.
Absolutely. So I did just want to thank you so much for your pioneering work and let you know that the torch has been carried, hopefully
Great.
to your standard.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
So
Great.
Mrs. Caledonia, will you come back on in approximately 10 minutes, please?
Yeah, no problem. I can do
Thank you
that.
so much. We appreciate
right.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll just give Mrs. Montanaro just a moment. She's rejoined. Mrs. Montanaro?
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining. We appreciate it.
No problem.
And it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Brett, the current chair of the Board of Selectmen, and my colleagues, Selectman Ken Pacheco and Selectman Nancy Goulart, are also on the call as well. And you met who I call the boss, Mrs. Brady, today, I believe.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'd like to do first is just to give you the floor. Introduce yourself, maybe touch upon what intrigued you about Dighton, and a little bit about your background and your experience as well.
Yeah, so I'm Nikki. I am currently at Bridgewater State University studying environmental geoscience. I graduate on December 17th. And I've always wanted to work in conservation. I've realized, talking with people, how important it is to work in conservation locally. Dighton intrigued me because I used to live in Swansea, and I race and ride bikes. So I'm familiar with like all of the back roads and all the, trails. I like hiking too. So I really like the Dighton, Rehoboth, Swansea, Taunton area. But besides that, I am currently an intern at Riverhawk Environmental in Marshfield. And I'm just looking for some opportunities to expand my knowledge in environmental science. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you very much. I do want to open this up for questions from my colleagues. Selectman Pacheco, did you want to start us off?
I just want to briefly say that I'm also impressed with your resume. I understand you're new at this. You're going to graduate shortly. I did grow up in Swansea. Swansea is a great town. However, they stole our town administrator, so I
don't live there anymore.
I can't even visit my family now in Swansea because of that, because I'm so upset with Swansea. But thank you for applying, Mickey. Thank you.
Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, so Nikki, have you had any either hands-on or involvement with the EPA stormwater program?
No, I have not. I believe that was one of the questions that Mr. Pilling asked me earlier today.
Okay.
But I'm completely willing to learn anything.
Yeah, I had to learn. If I can learn it, anybody can learn it. What about, have you had involvement with any hands-on involvement with anything that would have involved DEP, whether it was any kind of studies, groundwater, soil, things of that nature that may be under the control of DEP?
I'm not sure like what exactly is under control of DEP, but I am very familiar with soil and groundwater sampling, as well as vapor sampling, even though I don't think that applies to this job. So I am familiar with the guidelines for like sampling, I guess, in general. But yeah, I'm just not sure what DEP kind of takes over, I guess. It's just what I've done in my internship.
Okay, and that's what I was looking at. Riverhawk Environmental.
Mhm.
Just without naming names or any place where you actually worked, like a company or a person, but just briefly, what would an assignment be that you would have been involved in?
Yeah, I do almost anything there. I'm the only environmental scientist intern that they've ever had. The co-owner is a geologist. So I work with basically civil engineers.
Okay.
So I do a lot of groundwater, soil sampling, vapor sampling. I do a lot of phase 1 environmental site assessment write-ups, and I edit them back and forth with the civil engineers. I do some, just analytical table edits and just, configuration of those. I'm trying to
Okay,
think.
that's very helpful, because what you're describing to us as selectmen, I think the three of us recall, I'm sure you're familiar with the engineering firm Weston and Sampson. It's a very large firm, and they have done studies in Dayton, and they've done phased studies. So we have actually seen the kind of reports you're talking about, because we had an area that we had them test for contaminants. And so we got, it was a volume of, we all read the summary, all that volume and the rest of it, it was Greek to me. So I had to rely on the summary. So at least we have an understanding of that kind of work that you would do, because that would have been the phase 1 report we got. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I did want to let you know, full disclosure, I am also, well, you are not yet, but you will be very shortly, an alumnus of Bridgewater State University. But I am much older than you. It's finally nice to have someone I can say that to. It was actually Bridgewater State College when I graduated. So I'm dating myself here. What intrigued you about getting involved? I did look at your history. So you have some experience with Mass Audubon. I know Selectman Goulart and I have been in touch with folks from Nature Conservancy and some other environmental groups over our tenure as selectmen. And I guess just on a basic core, what intrigues you about it? Is it like climate change? What about the environment? I know you said you had soil expertise. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I have soil expertise just from kind of just from my internship. But I've always wanted to work in wildlife conservation. I started off my educational career, I guess, in marine biology. So when I transferred to Bridgewater and I, was looking for different majors, I decided not to go with biology itself, just because I felt like Bridgewater didn't offer, that individual, section of biology. Like I would have had to take a lot of prerequisites that I didn't enjoy. So I liked the environmental geoscience side of things, or the earth science department, just because I felt like it was a little bit more broad. But I did do that research for a summer with Mass Audubon, which was through one of my biology professors, which was, I just took, basic biology, and then I had that research credit. But I really liked it. Like even just like the background of, we were basically surveying reptiles and amphibians for the summer. So I just liked the background of how, he had us organize our data, and, I was outside all the time, and it was a really great experience, especially now that I'm kind of out of the biology, classes and everything.
Sure.
It's it's a great thing to look back on and have that kind of more broad experience in both, geology and biology.
Sure. And I guess my final question, and I apologize if I've asked too many. I'm known to do that. Selectman Pacheco would tell you that. What about, what is your experience, if any, specifically with wetlands I know you do a lot of sampling, so I did see that in your resume. Do you have any expertise exclusively with wetlands by any chance? I know that's a big component of the conservation agent role.
Yeah, so not really. My internship isn't, I guess, geared towards wetlands. It's more just, excavation and making sure that that all goes, environmentally safely.
Sure.
But, again, I'm willing to learn, and I would love to learn about, wetlands and other parts of this conservation job. But yeah, I wish I could give you a better answer.
No. I appreciate more than anything when I talk to any candidate or any person is just an interest to learn and a willingness to learn. I happen to have a PhD, and I tell people all the time I'm a lifelong learner. I literally learn something every day from someone I work with. People that have degrees, people that don't have degrees, people who work blue collar jobs, people who work white collar jobs. And I take everything as an opportunity to learn, and you strike me as someone who does the same. So I definitely appreciate that, and I appreciate the honesty as well.
Yeah, Mrs. Brady did ask me 3 words to describe what I would want in this job, and the first one I believe was challenging, and that's one of my hopes for any job that I do get, is that it's a challenge every day, and I am constantly learning something new.
Absolutely. Colleagues, did anyone have any other questions for Mrs. Montanaro?
I just have one question. Listening to you and listening to the things that you're interested in, you can't be far away from actually earning a teaching certificate. No, I'm serious, because you remind me of some of the professors I had at UMass in sciences, and I was in continuing ed, so it was night school, but we had people who were in the field, like you're talking about, that taught earth science and things like that. And I know that going to Bridgewater State University, or any of the state universities, the areas of study are close enough that with education courses, you can actually end up with a teaching degree, certification, and the other one. So I was just curious, because I think the interest you have down the road, if you ever look into getting a certification, there's a plus there, because you've already got the background.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you say that, because I was at the beginning of the semester, I was planning on going to get my master's in education. It was kind of leaning towards elementary education, but I really just want more experience working to begin with before I move on with school. School's not my favorite thing in the world, just because of assignments and everything mostly. I love to learn, but it's just the assignments that are really stressful. But yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that.
Well, I will just offer, being from Swansea, I'm sure you know Bristol County Agricultural High School. And Bristol Ag is building a whole North Campus, and the Board of Selectmen toured it yesterday. And we were amazed at the kind of things that will be going on, environmental studies and things like that. Plus, that's in addition to what they do. But anyhow, when you get some time and you say, maybe I will do that teaching thing, because as I say, you're not that far from it, based on what you're already going to have when you get that bachelor's.
So we have both candidates are back. We have concluded, I believe, Selectman Pacheco, if you agree, we've concluded our questions. I do want to ask at this time, Mrs. Brady, Mr. Pilling are on the line. I know they were involved in the selection process, so forwarding us the 2 candidates that we interviewed here this evening. So I do want to ask, was there a consensus amongst the interviewers on a recommendation of sorts? Hold on, Selectman Pacheco, did you have a question, sir?
Yes, Lisa was on, but I think she went off.
She just came back in.
Okay.
Thank you. I just noticed when she was in the waiting room. Thank you, sir. Was there a recommendation or a consensus? Either or. Mr. Pilling, if you're responding, you're on mute. I apologize.
Well, I'm here. I mean, I thought Mrs. Brady was going to handle it, but
Okay, no worries.
but yeah, the all three candidates that we interviewed today were very good. They all had certain strengths, and you know, honestly, if we hired any one of the three, I would have been happy. But Lisa had more wetland experience than the other candidates. But I do applaud Nikki. Like say, she was a very good candidate. I say just a little short in wetland as far as my well, I think it was a consensus of the board that Lisa had the best wetland experience. And that's more what we need, but Nikki wasn't far behind.
Mrs. Brady, is Mr. Pilling accurate in his, no, I'm just, was that correct? That was
He
your
is
sense of it?
accurate. They were both amazing interviewers. They were both
They
very,
are.
very good. Nikki, we were very impressed with you as an interviewer. And Lisa answered all the questions. I mean, she was amazing. They were both really good interviews.
Thank you, Mrs. Brady. So I will just explain, I guess, where my mind is at this evening in relationship to selecting a conservation agent. I have been well apprised of the urgency, and I guess what I would call the immediacy of the need to fill this role with someone who really has a vast experience and a knowledge of wetlands. And so I'm going to err on the side of that, knowing what the conservation needs and has before them. We have Strawberry Fields development, which they're going to be weighing in on. And so I'm going to err on the side of experience. However, what I do want to say to you, Mrs. Montanaro, and I'm just one vote, so I have no idea how it's going to go tonight. I will tell you this, you have a very bright career ahead of you, no matter what happens this evening. So I do want to tell you that, but probably you don't need me to tell you that, you know that. Colleagues, do we have any questions, comments
No,
before we take a vote?
Sure, I agree with what you just said, Dr. Z. Nikki, you were very impressive. So unfortunately, I'm going to be going with Lisa also. She has some experience in town. Wetlands is a big issue in our town, but I agree with what Dr. Z said, that you have a great future in front of you, and hopefully somewhere down the road, you can come back to Dayton for something. So.
Absolutely. Selectman Goulart?
I agree. I wish we could hire two people. You know, I feel like I did the night we were looking at the two candidates for fire chief. We have one vacancy. And in reviewing this, I agree with what Mr. Pilling and Mrs. Brady said. But again, I'm going to be selfish. I'm chairman of the Stormwater Committee. I know what we have ahead of us. I know what's important, and I know the immediate needs of conservation. So I would also support appointing Lisa.
With that, colleagues, I will entertain motions.
I'll make a motion that we hire Lisa Caledonia as a conservation agent. And do we have a start date that do we know when she can start?
Mrs. Caledonia?
Oh, well, I think maybe after the first of the year seemed to make the most sense. I had asked Karen, and I think that probably would make sense with the holidays.
So that it'd be effective whatever the first Monday is in January, whatever that is. I don't have the calendar in front of me.
One sec.
I think it's the 4th.
Yep, it's the 4th.
Okay.
Effective January 4th.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I want to thank both Mrs. Montanaro and Mrs. Caledonia for applying, for your interest, and quite frankly, for your enthusiasm. So I did want to mention that as well. With that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Again, thank you both, Mrs. Montanaro and Mrs. Caledonia. And Mrs. Caledonia, we'll see you on the 4th, okay?
Okay, great. Maybe I'll get a tour before that or something.
Of course, I'm being a little tongue in
Yeah.
cheek. Yeah, call us if you need anything, and we'll be in touch anyway.
All right. Sounds good.
Good,
Can't wait
Nikki.
to meet
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Roll
Thank
call.
you. All right.
Roll
Take care.
call.
Roll
Aye.
call.
Aye.
Aye.
Someone always does it at the same time, so I apologize.
Lisa,
have
are
a
you still
system.
there?
Yeah, I am.
Sometime between now and when you actually start, if you have the time, just get in touch with me and I can give you a quick tour of where we are with stormwater, because that's a biggie.
Sure. Yeah, I read through the MS4 notice of intent last night a little bit, and I saw all the educational outreach things that the town's been doing. But yeah, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that and see where things are at.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Nikki.
You too.
Have a good
Appreciate
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Thank you.
Nikki.
Thank you. I just want to say I appreciate all of your time, and it was nice meeting you all. Again, this means a lot to me just for experience.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Keep us in mind, please.
I will. Thank you.
You too.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
And I did just want to say to Mrs. Brady, Mr. Pilling, and the members of the Conservation Commission who participated in the selection process, thank you very much. It was our first process without our town administrator, and it went well. So we got a great candidates, excuse me. We filled the role with someone who will be able to hit the ground running on day one, and I just wanted to thank you all for an excellent job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to take
Sure.
any others out of order? I know we've got Mr. Ferry here. We've still got Mr. Aguirre here.
Absolutely. Before we do, I do want to ask, did we have discretionary spending requests?
No,
I don't
we had
believe we had any.
No.
Did we have any public input? Mr. Pilling,
think
you
we
have the
have
floor,
any.
sir.
Hi, good evening.
evening.
Yeah, just two quick things, and one of them, Chief McGee and Jim Aggie are both here, so we can weigh in. The COVID numbers, obviously everybody knew they were on the way up. We've been getting inundated with them. And they were coming in really fast. They seem to be kind of leveling off a little bit, but we're still getting a lot of cases. And as you are all aware, our nurse basically couldn't keep up with the tide anymore. There were so many coming in so fast. So Roz and I have both taken the MAVEN training, and we are now doing the contact tracing for Dighton. So we are trying to call as many people as we can and keep up with it, because the CTC was taking up to 14 days to call people to tell them they were in a 14-day quarantine. So it really wasn't very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I say the tide seems to be coming back down, and I would like to reopen the meeting room in Old Town Hall, the upper level meeting room, for meetings only, not for yoga classes or any Boy Scout meetings, any of that kind of stuff, just for meetings, but limited. Right now, I think it's like 14 is the capacity in the room. I was thinking something more along the lines of 8, 9, or 10 people with a social distancing of maybe like 8 feet in between instead of 6, because I think it's important to have meetings in person. I think it's a lot more productive for boards. And I mean, obviously, if you're going to have a public hearing like tonight with this many people on it, I don't think it could happen. But I think you can do the hybrid where the board meets in person and people can Zoom in or something. Now that they've installed a television in there, people can be put up on the screen when they're communicating by Zoom. So I think it would be, I think it's a much better scenario. But again, the other 2 members of the pandemic reopening committee are on here also, so I'd like to hear their input. But that's one of my 2 things. The other one is that we received another grant yesterday from PHEP, the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Group, for $1,300. That money has to be spent by December 26th, and it's set for just a few specific items. And based on the number of contacts we're getting, we'd like to use it for contact tracing. And but I know it's not on the agenda tonight. I just wanted to throw it out at the board and ask that it be put on your next agenda.
So the only issue, Mr. Pilling, is that my concern is I get the immediacy. I get that this just happened, and now it wasn't foreseen that we have to respond so quickly and spend the money so quickly. Our next meeting is not till the 16th. I guess my question to my colleagues is, I'm kind of erring on the side of I'm not sure we should wait till the 16th to vote on this, because we want and need, quite frankly, someone to be doing the contact tracing now, and not 2 weeks from now. So how do we want to deal with this?
Schedule a meeting.
Yep.
Tuesday
What Tuesday?
coming up?
Not Wednesday?
We could. Tuesday's the earliest we could do it.
Okay, all right, Tuesday, December the 8th, that's fine with me.
Selectman Pacheco, is that okay with you?
Yes, can we have it earlier?
Yeah, I was thinking as early on we could in the day.
Yeah.
It's just this one thing. It's not going to be an agenda. It's just.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, with a one item agenda,
Mhm.
unless something comes out of the woodwork that we really have to act on. Yeah, absolutely. The sooner the better.
Okay. Mr. Pilling,
Yes.
does the morning of Tuesday sound okay?
I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I believe it's fine. I've got an 11 o'clock to
Mhm.
12:15 and a 3 to 4 o'clock. But other than that, I believe I'm available.
10 o'clock on the 8th? How's
That
that
would work.
work?
It's just going to be a few minutes, I think. So, okay. Is that okay with everyone? 10 a.m. on
Yeah, I don't
Tuesday?
have my calendar in front of me though. I would say we got time to post it for Tuesday, right?
It'll have to be posted by tomorrow at 10 or by whatever time we were going to choose for Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I want to just take a quick look at our calendar, okay?
Yeah, no
I'm
worries.
gonna do the same thing.
No worries. Mr. Pilling, did you have anything else so I'm also on that pandemic task force, but only because the town administrator's in Swansea right now. So my thought on the meeting room, I guess, is I do this weekly report. So I do look at that weekly Mass Department of Public Health COVID report. And I did also see that the numbers, yes, they go up. First of all, they only go up. They never go down. So they're going up, but at a much lesser rate than they were the previous weeks. I don't have a problem with opening it up just for those, as you said, smaller meetings, and only for those smaller meetings. So I'm with you on that. I don't know if Chief McGee or Mr.
Yep,
Aggie.
I'm on, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, you have the floor, sir.
Yes, I actually agree. I much prefer meetings in person. I think as long as we can do it safely, which I think Agent Pilling has described how to do so,
Mhm.
then I would concur. I think it would be beneficial.
Okay. Selectman Pacheco and Selectman Goulart, before we get to the calendar, are you okay with the meeting room suggestion? Just for meetings, smaller meetings?
Old Town Hall?
Old Town Hall.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I
Okay.
want more specifics. Mr. Pilling said that the numbers are going down. What are the numbers? And what have they gone down to?
Well, I didn't say they were going down. Well, I mean, I guess where we were getting like, say, 30 in 1 week, we're now only getting 20 in a week. So it seems to be hopefully past the hump. And you're looking at the state numbers, it did peak and it's on its way back down. But it's not like down back to the 1% number that would reopen us to going back, traveling to Maine and New Hampshire and all that. But
Yeah, I guess I'm a little concerned about it, given that we just had Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, too many families got together and they shouldn't have got together. So, we're not opening up the basketball courts and that kind of stuff. So I don't see how we can open up the Old Town Hall. I really think because of the holidays, people getting together, unfortunately, I think we're going to see the numbers going up again. So,
Dr. C?
Yes,
Just a thought. I just thought of this. I understand what Ken is saying. I personally feel like if we can meet in the Old Town Hall meeting room, that's fine. But I'm going to do it with a caveat because I just thought of this. I mailed in my second Test Boston kit today. Okay, and because I'm in that study, that COVID-19 study, I have to be very careful. So we have the option of meeting live and Zoom at the same time. So I'm willing to schedule for the 8th at Old Town Hall because I'll have the option. If something happens that I feel I shouldn't be there physically, I'll Zoom in. So that's something Selectman Pacheco could consider too.
I think his concern isn't just for himself, though.
Right, it's,
Yeah,
I'm not sure we should open it up. That's my,
yeah.
Oh, you're talking about.
Not just for
total-
him, for, yeah.
Well, usually 90% of the cases test positive within 3 to 5, or show symptoms within 3 to 5 days of exposure. So if people were getting together on Thanksgiving, we'd be at day 6 today, and we didn't see a spike come in. The numbers basically stayed flat. It was like 5 to 7 a day. It didn't like go up to 10 or 15 or whatever. It stayed about the same. So we didn't see that influx we expected this week yet. But it is, I mean, obviously Monday, we can make the decision Monday morning if the numbers are still trending the way they are, we can do it that way. Or you're meeting Tuesday, add this to the agenda and we can talk about it Tuesday.
Let's do this, if it's okay with you, everyone, let's talk about this on Tuesday, because what will happen, as we all know, is either Thursday or Friday, the new numbers will come out, and maybe we might have a better picture. Is that okay, Selectman Pacheco?
yes.
So is Tuesday going to be at the Old Town Hall or not?
We'll
should
do
be
it,
Zoom.
we'll do it by Zoom.
Okay, 10 a.m.?
10 a.m. Yep. That okay, Mr. Pilling?
Good by me.
All right. Anything else?
Nope, that was it. Oh, unless you want to hear from Chief McGee about reopening, but
Yeah, I know the building commissioner had said he was okay with it. Chief McGee, I don't know if you're still here. Did you have any thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it. It's fine by me.
Thank you, Chief. And we'll take that into consideration when we take our vote on, I guess, when we discuss it, excuse me, on Tuesday. Thank you, Mr. Pilling.
is there anything else you need me for, or any other questions? Or otherwise, I'll sign out.
Well, don't ask that. You've already assumed the contact tracing. We don't know. We don't know what else is around the corner, sir. No, in all seriousness, thank you. We do appreciate it. And I mean that in all seriousness. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good night.
You as well, sir.
See you, Todd.
Okay. So what we have on the agenda for people who are still present are a few items with our highway superintendent. And do we have anything else with
10A is Mr. Aguirre.
okay. So I'm willing to take things out of order.
Okay, well, all right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we take agenda item 7A out of order, which is the update on 382 Main Street.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Mr. Ferry, I know we have an update on the entrance tree at 382 Main Street.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 We have to do it on that too. That's right. Mr. Ferry,
Yes, good evening.
good evening, sir.
I like your background.
Thank you. Yes, so as you, I believe you all received a copy of the letter of the results of the survey for the Enton's property as we requested. And it shows that the survey that we do in fact share the tree. It's not all that tree like they thought it was. And I already have a tree company scheduled for the 16th. So we can tackle it then.
Thank you, sir. I think there was a question of, since the tree, yes, it's town property, but it's sort of a playground. Will monies come from the playground budget to pay for this tree removal? I think that was also part of this discussion, no?
A member of the playground committee asked me about that. That's all.
Yeah, so I think we should clarify that for them if it's a question. Selectman Goulart and Selectman Pacheco, I don't think that this money comes from their budget. I think when we need to remove a tree, right? We don't go to which department, right?
No,
Yeah,
no.
I didn't think so. Okay. I didn't give that answer because I wasn't entirely sure, but Selectman Goulart?
Well, it's only half our tree.
So we should be paying half was my other question.
When I read the letter from Attorney Enton about the survey, and the diagram looks like the line goes through the tree. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask Mrs. Enton or Miss Enton to cover half of the cost of removing the tree. It truly isn't totally a town tree. The other thing too is, Mr. Ferry, got any idea what it will cost to take that tree down?
I hire the tree. I hire the Barnes Tree Company. It comes with the operator and a foreman for the day, and I do multiple trees for the whole day, whatever we can tackle. Our department does the cleanup, which is the bulk of the cost. So for the day, it's 900 and change.
For how many hours? What's a day?
8 hours.
Okay, so in the spirit of being a good neighbor, I think it's reasonable to ask them to pay a share of what Barnes Tree Company is going to charge the town. And Mr. Ferry, I'm sure can come up with, based on an hourly rate, what that would be. I don't think it's going to be a fortune. And the town's contribution would be the cleanup.
I disagree with that. You know,
I do too. Selectman Pacheco?
when we sat down with them, we told them if they do the surveying, pay for the surveying of the property, and we find that the tree is on town property, that the town would take the tree down. Now it's half on their property, half on our property. We can't take half a tree down. You know, so I just think we ought to. It's on our land. Let's pay for it. We'll take it down. The town's going to, Mr. Ferry's workers will clean it up. And I think it's fair. I don't know how much it costs for them to have it surveyed, but that was an expense and they agreed to it. So I just think that we ought to pay for the tree.
I get the spirit. Yep. I get the spirit and intent of what Selectman Goulart is saying. The only reason I'm going to err on Selectman Pacheco's, I guess, suggestion is because they did spend money to have the tree surveyed. So if we tried to tell them 50-50, then they would say, well, then you need to, you didn't help pay for any of the surveying and half the tree.
No,
I just don't think we should get into that. I don't think it's already, we're already at 8 p.m. and we literally haven't even touched anything else in the agenda.
That's not the point. My recommendation was based exactly on what we agreed to. If the tree was on town property, we would pay to take it down. My point is, we've stated publicly, and now we know factually, the tree is not totally on town property. So I'm just stating that. The other thing I will mention is there's a shed that is sitting on town property. What are we going to do about that? That's not our shed. That's something we need to look at.
Okay, we can do that at a different meeting.
That would have to come to me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will entertain motions.
I'll make a motion that we take the tree, that the town of Dayton pay for the expense of taking that tree down.
I will step down and second that motion. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye. Well, I'm sorry, we did it at the same time. Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Selectman Goulart, while we have Mr. Ferry, do we want to take another item out of order?
Yeah, I think there was something else that I saw.
There was, I thought. The mechanics job advertisement, Selectman Goulart?
Mr. Chairman, I move
Yep.
that we take agenda item 8E out of order, please.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call. Aye.
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 So we have the job advertisement. Mr. Ferry, did you have anything you wanted to speak to about the advertisement?
I wasn't prepared to do that.
No worries.
So as you know, we do have a vacancy.
Mhm.
We, per our contract, we needed to post it in-house for 7 days,
Mhm.
7 business working days, which we have. That expired November 30th.
Yep.
And with Karen's help, it's now advertised through our website and MMA and the Beacon, I believe.
Thank you, sir. So we do have, obviously, in our packet, a copy of it. Does anyone, before I entertain motions to approve, I guess, the job posting for mechanic class 1, did anyone have any comments, questions?
I don't.
I don't. I know it's already posted in MMA.
All right, so I will entertain motions.
Now, Mr. Chairman,
Yep. Mrs. Goulart?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the posting of the vacancy for mechanic class 1 in the highway department
I'll second that motion.
as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was good. See, we're getting the hang of it.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yeah.
move that we take agenda item 8B out of order.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So I know there was a little bit of uncertainty as to, I'm choosing my words wisely here, as to whether or not we should, the board, meaning we, meaning the Board of Selectmen, should act on this evening or the 16th. Did we get any clarification, Mr.
Yes, we
Ferry?
did. Yes, we did. So if you don't mind, we just need to postpone this to the 16th. We'll have more
Sure.
information to share then. It appears that we may need to have more hydrology studies and
Mhm.
how that's going to happen. So those details need to be worked out before the 16th.
I'll make a motion that we
Sure.
continue item 8B to December 16th, Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Ferry. Selectman Goulart, are we missing anything? Mr. Ferry, were you also planning to stay for Sursage? Because we're happy to take those out of order as well.
What's going on with Sursage?
We're just gonna vote, and I don't know if you were gonna, if you were gonna drop off, then I wouldn't take them out of order. But if you
I
were
think,
gonna stay for them,
I think he should be here. This shouldn't take long, Tom.
Mrs.
Mr.
Brady.
Ferry.
I just wanted to say the vote for the DPW services was rather involved. It's a 23-page document that I am trying to put on one readable spreadsheet
Yeah.
for the board to view and make it easier. So I haven't had a chance to prepare that yet. And if Tom's okay with it, I'd like to defer that to the December 16th meeting, as long as he doesn't need that bid.
Yes, it can wait until the 16th. It's not so much me, it's for the consortium group, so they can finalize the contracts back and forth, and I believe the
Okay.
16th works.
I'll make a motion that we continue item 8F to the December 16th Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye. We both did it. It counts.
Aye.
Now we have the Sursage Drug and Alcohol Testing Services Award. Did we want to do that one tonight, I assume?
I would think so.
Do we want to move that out of order?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take agenda item 8G out of order.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Does someone else mind presenting this? I'm having a hard time finding it in my packet. Just start
I'm
us off,
also-
please.
I'm also looking for it myself.
Mrs. Brady, do you have that?
I do. I gotta find it myself.
Okay, I've got it here, but Mrs. Brady, jump in. It's a statement, Southeastern Region Services Group, Drug Alcohol Testing Award. Town of Dayton Board of Selectmen voted at their meeting on today's date to award the contract to Advantage Drug Testing out of Andover, Mass, 3-year period, January 1, 21, December 31, 23, for the administration of drug and alcohol testing program for municipal employees in accordance with the requirements set out in Sursage request for proposals. The award is contingent on, is conditioned on receipt of signed contracts from the communities involved. Briefly, alcohol testing, $40 per screen. And then alcohol testing confirmation, 0. Drug testing, $65 per test. Additional charges, testing with a mobile unit brought on site to the emergency room or to the scene of an accident.
Okay.
So you got it scheduled on?
Yeah, finally. I'm sorry. It took me, I went by it like 9 times. I apologize.
Mr. Pacheco, do you have it?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you see all those list of charges?
Yes, yep. I do have a question. What are they testing for the drugs? Do we know?
Everything required by law, I believe.
That's a lot of drugs.
Mr. Ferry?
Yeah, it's a broad spectrum of drugs, correct. And the two caveats of going this route is they can come to our town rather than us sending the employees out of town for the random tests. And the other one is we're redoing a contract. We're not assuming the same old, so we're broadening our availabilities out there for this industry. We're required by law to do this and maintain it. So it's a good thing to have.
So you recommend that we vote to do this?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we award the drug testing and drug alcohol testing services as submitted by Sursage with the rates quoted.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, excuse me, discussion?
Yes, I would just be concerned that whenever I assume that, Mr. Ferry, you're going to get the results of your employees, any positive drug tests, that we have that be confidential, that be not made to other members, other employees in your department.
Not to my department, no. And if any copies are kept in my office, it's Social Security's numbers and stuff like that's blacked out. That's actually stored at the town hall with our human resource.
Mhm. Any further discussion on this?
I just want to comment that when I was a probation officer, we actually had to do the testing ourselves, and it was a lot cheaper than what this is going to be. But I wouldn't want Mr. Ferry to have to go through what we had to go through to do the testing. So I'm in favor of this.
Mr. Ferry, I have a question. If an employee tests positive, is the testing agency required to report it to the appropriate state authority, like a CDL, if somebody's got a CDL? Does the testing agency not only report it to the community, but to the state licensing agency or whoever's in charge?
Yes, they don't have a choice. They're required.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Did we have any further discussion on this, team?
I don't.
No, I'm all set.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Mr. Ferry, thank you so much. I don't think we have anything.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we take agenda item 8H out of order.
I was waiting for Mrs. Goulart, but roll call on the last.
Oh, yes, aye on the last one.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mrs. Brady, I think you should have a bell and you ring it. That means we didn't do the.
Well, it's because we're taking everything out of order.
I'll
Do
second Mrs. Goulart's motion.
we have a motion in a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay. Who's presenting this? Selectman Goulart or Mr. Ferry?
Well, he's certainly welcome to jump in at any time.
Okay, I need to start limiting things because we're already at 8 p.m. and I don't want to have a 3-hour meeting. So we've got 3 minutes on this.
This is going to be a quick one. As I reported in the past, Mr. Ferry and I met with property owners. Some property owners, 2 property owners that own property jointly have agreed to the appraisal. The payment has been sent through for processing and the check will be held. I was in touch with Attorney Costa, and he wants to fine tune the agreement that we have used in the past for all of our land taking and easements. So as soon as, and he's in agreement with that the town can pay this group of property owners, we don't have to hold it until everything is resolved. So I just wanted you to know, we will be getting that agreement from Mr. Attorney Costa, and we will be able to pay off one group of property owners on this project as soon as possible, quite frankly. So that's a positive. We got a little more to talk about, but for tonight, this is good news on this one. Tom?
Nothing more to add to that at this point.
Okay.
I guess my question is there anything regarding this that we need to act on tonight?
No, it's more like a progress report.
Okay, so we're waiting for, okay, I understand now. We just need that feedback agreement from Attorney Costa. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
So I will make one last suggestion. If we don't have any action items on 8H, can we take the last thing for the building commissioner out of order?
I'll make a motion that we take item 10A out of order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Mr. Commissioner, I know you're on sort of a standby, so I apologize. But
No problem. I'm doing permits, so it's a good use of time.
I should have known you were still working.
Right.
The floor.
No, real simple. I've spoken in the past about bolstering the staff in my office. I've looked for the perfect candidates, both from a trade perspective.
Excuse me, wait a minute.
Sorry.
That's the wrong item.
What are we? I'm sorry. Where were we? I'm
The
sorry.
demolition. My apologies.
Oh, okay. I should have been listening instead of doing my permits. I'm sorry.
Stop working.
Stop working when you're supposed to be working.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you have before you correspondence regarding 949 Somerset Avenue. Despite our best attempt, the purchaser of that building has reneged and abandoned plans to dismantle and move the building. So I now quite simply want to salvage some items out of it, not much, in hopes that we can repurpose in the future and then move forward with demolition as I indicate in my letter. That's both in conformance with the auction criteria and with the will of the people.
Do we have any questions, comments regarding this? I know we auctioned it once, but technically we had to extend it. So there was ample time. I'm sad to see that whoever the buyer was, obviously isn't going to be moving the historic house. but we did try to auction it. This was really the last resort. So I'm sad that it came to this, that's for sure. I'm sure we all are. Selectman Pacheco, Selectman Goulart, Selectman Pacheco?
I have a question then. Other people had bid also, so they were a little less. Are we able to go to them to see if they're still interested or not? I think I have the answer.
Not,
Yes.
no, not at this juncture. The time to bring in backup bidders has long passed. So we're not able to do that, unfortunately.
Oh, so because the buyer dragged their feet, that meant that any secondary or tertiary bidder no longer can be considered?
Exactly.
Oh, so they
Yes.
ruined it for everyone. That's
Yes, yes. And I have really stayed in constant communication, and I thought that this current bidder would follow it through, but the last 10 days, he hasn't responded to me. I finally pinned him down and said, I need an answer. And then he fessed up that it just no longer makes sense to him. So unfortunately, and I'm not trying to put a silver lining on this. I know we wanted to save the building, but Mike and I went through the house. We've already saved or talked about saving some items. I'd like to use some of those items in some of the town hall renovations. So it's not going to go for waste. We are going to be able to keep the building alive, at least in part. So, as we did with this building, we're really going to try to carry things on.
Any questions for the building commissioner? Selectman Goulart?
Did this bidder give us a deposit?
He paid. It's non-refundable. He doesn't get his money back.
That's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, considering that there might have been a second chance and now that's gone too. So I guess that's something.
Yeah,
So
we're not talking a lot of money, but.
No, I know it. His bid wasn't a lot of money. I mean, his total bid wasn't a lot either, but just the reference to the highway department, will the highway department be taking this building down?
Yes, despite having allocated $25,000 for the demolition, we have, Tom Ferry and I discussed it at length, and we both feel that it's best suited for the highway department, not just from, a taxpayer standpoint, but if there is anything that we would like to salvage during the demolition, with us being in control of the demolition, we'll be able to do that. If we put it out to bid, then that wouldn't really be possible.
Okay.
Any further questions?
So is a motion in order to go ahead with this, Mr. Chairman?
Was that what you were requesting, Mr. Commissioner? Do you require?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it is required because the intent always, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that if the building were not auctioned off, then it would be demolished. But if I'm wrong, then please stand me corrected.
I'm not sure I would use the word intent, but that's just the process. I think that was well stated. We knew why we wanted to auction it, and we wanted to do that because we were hoping someone would purchase and move it rather than needing to raise the building.
Right, and that's why this letter went to you as correspondence. It was more just notification that, I'm moving forward.
Does any, Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that we, based on discussion this evening and correspondence from the building commissioner, Mr. Aguirre, that we authorize his carrying out the demolition of the building as described, meaning using highway department personnel in his correspondence. I just think we should have a final vote on record. Let me put it.
I don't have an issue with it. I guess we were just discussing, is it required? I don't have an issue with it. Selectman Pacheco?
Yeah, I'm not going to second it. I understand it's going to pass, but just out of principle, I'm opposed to tearing down
I understand.
historic buildings. So I just can't. I understand the will of the people. They didn't support preserving it. I get all of that, but just out of principle, I'm not going to vote in favor of tearing down the building.
You know I respect that, Selectman Pacheco. I will step down and second Selectman Goulart's motion. Anything else under discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I oppose.
Abstentions? The ayes have it, that motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
No.
Aye. That motion carries.
Yeah.
Mr. Commissioner,
Yes.
I know you have work to do. If it's okay with you, can we move to your appointment?
Sure.
Does anyone want to take?
Mr.
this
Chairman,
up?
I move that we take agenda item. Is it K and L or just L?
It's K and L. Yes.
That we take agenda items K and L out of order.
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Commissioner, you have the floor, sir.
Sure. I'll keep it quick. I know you're running out of time. So everyone knows that I have a few unfilled seats or positions in my department. I have been looking for the perfect candidates, or at least attempting to. Mr. Cutler is a municipal employee in Seekonk. He owns a very large HVAC plumbing and gas firm. And I've been waiting patiently for him to bring his sons into the business to free up more of his time so that he would be available to the town of Dayton. He wants to be or expand his availability to municipal inspections, so this is something he embraces. He certainly has the background, the credentials to take over these two positions. He also has electronic experience, which, as you know, I'm moving the department into more of a online manner, and he brings that ability to the role. So it's something that I'm looking for in any of the new appointees to make sure that we can stay on top of the of that part of the evolution of this department.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions before I entertain motions?
What's a mechanical inspector?
I'm the mechanical inspector by default, so he would be my assistant mechanical inspector. And you
What is it?
previously,
Yeah, like what is
oh,
it?
what
do?
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed
No,
that.
it's okay.
Ductwork, HVAC ductwork, all of the ductwork associated with heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems.
Okay.
And in your
Selectman
letter,
Pacheco?
yeah, in your letter, you indicate that he's available during the day, so that's a plus.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm trying to find that ability in any of the new staffing, because that enables me to be freed up for some of the other responsibilities I have.
Yeah, I want to be, if I may just be a little bit clear with people watching who may not be familiar, the reason why these roles can be, I will say, difficult to fill. It isn't because we're not looking hard enough. A lot of times it's because people have a full-time job and the assistant mechanical inspector is not a full-time job. So they would not be available. Someone may not be available during the day because they're doing their full-time job to be doing part-time or per diem work for the town of Dayton. So I just wanted to have that be on the record. That's why sometimes these positions can take a while to fill.
Correct, well said.
Anything else regarding these? I don't know if we want to do them separately or together, but I will entertain motions if there's no further questions.
I'll make the
regarding
motion that we hire Timothy Cutler as assistant mechanical inspector and assistant plumbing and gas inspector.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Aguirre, Mr. Commissioner, for finding someone. We appreciate
And thank you all for your support. I couldn't do it without your support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Commissioner, do we have anything on here with you left? I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. No, I thank you for taking them out of order, and I wish you the best in keeping with your 9:30 p.m. stop time.
That's not a hard stop, don't worry. We'll blow through it.
We're gonna
All
do
right.
it. Night.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
everyone.
Have a good night.
You too, good night.
So now that we don't have any, I think, appointments, if we can go back up to scheduled announcements.
You know, this is the point that I think most of our viewers wait for, and we've delayed it
I know.
4.5 hours, so I'm a little disappointed in that. But
too.
all seriousness, we have a few
No,
items.
you're right. It is true. Like, people do wait for the announcements. So what we can do, Selectman Pacheco, is I'll make sure that we get these announcements on our page for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's more important if it was a live. Well, actually, it is. It's on YouTube live.
This is live.
Oh,
Yep.
yes. So anyway, let me go through them. There's a few of them. Town Hall and Old Town Hall are closed to the public at this time. All in-person meetings are canceled. All committee meetings shall be held remotely via Zoom. All Council on Aging, primetime, and library programs that are currently scheduled at Old Town Hall will be canceled until further notice. The library will still offer curbside service. Payments or any correspondence can be left either in the outside drop box located by the walkway at the entrance of Town Hall or the one in front of Old Town Hall. Payments may also be made by mail and online via the town website, www.dighton-ma.gov. Signage will be placed on all playgrounds, basketball courts, and a track behind Town Hall, informing the public that the use of masks is mandatory. There may be a $500 fine for non-compliance. There will be no changes to trash pickup or recycling. There is a town-wide parking ban in effect through April 1st, 2021. No person shall allow their vehicles to be parked on the street so as to obstruct snow removal. December 5th, 2020, the Holiday Pot fundraiser, Take and Make at Home Kits, sponsored by Arujos Farms, 1522 William Street. Pre-registration and prepayment required. A portion of the proceeds to benefit the Dayton Historical Society. Call Arujos Farms at 508-669-6988. And just for the record, I'm a member and an officer of the Dayton Historical Society. The Dayton Cultural Council has extended their deadline to Monday, December 14th, for organizations, schools, and individuals to apply for grants that support cultural activities in the community. Last year, the Dayton Cultural Council distributed about $5,800 in grants. These grants supported a variety of artistic projects and activities in Dayton, including exhibits, festivals, field trips, short-term honors residencies, or performances in school workshops or lectures. The Town of Dayton's food bank distribution will be held next on December 19, 2020, located at the Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue. It's in the lower level and it's a drive-through. The library is working with Old Colony History Museum to offer virtual programming. Anyone interested in participating live can contact Jocelyn Tavares at jtavares@salesinc.org. Programs will be recorded and be put on the library new YouTube page. That's all the announcements.
Thank you, sir. I did get one additional announcement, and if it's okay with everyone, I did want to read it. It's from the police department. It is from Sergeant Cronin to our police chief, Robert McDonald, dated November 30th, 2020. It's on very small, it's on my phone, so give me my eyes aren't that good, you guys. It says, Chief, yesterday, as you are aware, Patrolman Ferreira, Patrolman Marshall, Detective Richards, and I responded to an address in the north end of town for a suicidal male. Please note that the address and name are intentionally left out of this report so it can be cross-referenced in-house. While en route, Patrolman Ferreira was able to make contact with the party who was suffering from military service-induced PTSD, depression, and the sudden passing of his father just 48 hours earlier over the holiday weekend. The male was heavily intoxicated and making statements of ending his life. Upon arrival, Patrolman Ferreira was able to immediately distract this individual's attention from harming himself and to talk with him. As they spoke, the individual became calmer, but still had bouts of up and down extreme emotions and outbursts. Eventually, Patrolman Marshall, Detective Richards, and I entered the home and sat and spoke to the party, who was clearly hurting and in a lot of emotional pain. This call was unlike anything I have ever personally experienced in regard to the many dynamics involved with the situation. Speaking for others on scene, I'm confident that they too had not been privy to such an extreme and unpredictable encounter. Though there may be different ways that this may have been handled, I am extremely proud of the manner in which this was resolved. Patrolman Ferrero was the intervening body that probably saved this man's life. I am recommending that he and these officers are considered for and recognized for their meritorious performance yesterday, both as police officers and human beings. The professionalism, compassion, and empathy shown was needed, and, in my opinion, the X factor in allowing this call to come to a peaceful resolution. Without their sincerity and humanity, I firmly believe that this situation would have turned out far worse for all involved. Respectfully submitted, Sergeant Sean P. Cronin. So, first of all, I want to personally give my just thoughts to the gentleman who may be going through some difficult things right now. You are not alone. You are loved. And what I want to say to the police officers involved is just a big thank you. Again, showing your professionalism, showing your bravery and your dedication to your townspeople. It's greatly appreciated. And I'm happy to put this on our December 16th agenda right before Christmas. So we can put this under a certain time, invite the individuals in question along with the police chief in order to recognize their service.
I agree with what you just said. And this is why it's so important that police officers be properly trained. They handle this very well. I worked in, as I've mentioned too many times, I worked for the court system, and I've seen some cops that just made the situations worse when we had to call them in, when we had someone that was suicidal or overdosing on drugs or whatever, and just cranked it up a little bit. So I am very proud of our officers that they showed the empathy that Sergeant Cronin said that they showed, and they were able to save this person's life. And he should know that we're all hoping for the best for him, and hopefully he can overcome this. It's a difficult time of the year. Losing your father's difficult to begin with. Having post-traumatic stress disorder, sounds like he may have that also added to it. So I'm just glad that this person made it okay. And I want to thank those officers, and I'm glad we're going to do something for these officers on December 16th.
Yeah, I certainly agree with all of that. And I hope that there is a continuing support system for this individual. And I hope he's got family also, having lost his father.
Mrs. Brady, you don't mind adding to our November 16th agenda under scheduled appointments? If we don't have a hearing right at 6 p.m., I think we should do this right at 6 p.m. Not sure how we're going to do this if we're in the old town hall meeting room. We'll figure it out, okay?
Okay, no problem.
And we'll keep this in the back of our mind when we have our discussion with the health agent on Tuesday, okay? Selectman Pacheco and Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. And so what I want to do right now is just thank Sergeant Cronin for bringing this to our attention, bringing this. We're happy to read announcements like this. We're happy, quite frankly, to give our residents some good news in a difficult year. So keep up the good work. And gentlemen and ladies of our police department, please stay safe out there. Next on our agenda, and it's a little unusual for us tonight, but we're in regular order. So we're going to 8C, review, discuss, act, number of members permitted on the Human Rights Committee. I'll be very brief. The reason why I requested this on our agenda is because in addition to considering a resignation from the committee tonight, we have two individuals who have applied, which means 9 minus 1 is 8, plus 2 new people would be 10. We had stated at one of our previous meetings that we didn't want to tell anyone no. It seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm. We may get even more applications. And so I'm put this on here so we can consider expanding it to 10 for now.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that we expand it to 11 so that we can have an odd number of
That's
members.
a better idea.
So
Yep.
we have 8 right now. We're going to have shortly. We're going to talk about the resignation of one of our members. So we're going down to 8. This will make it 10. And I've stated in the past, you know, the group that we have right now is very enthusiastic. I'm sure more people want to join. I've been in contact with 2 people from Rehoboth that are going to participate in our meeting because they want to start a human rights committee in Rehoboth. So I would be making a motion that we expand the human rights committee to 11 members.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just want to add that we have our next meeting on December 14th. So if we do approve these members and they're sworn in, they should be invited to that meeting. It's going to be a Zoom meeting.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, board members. I'm going to ask, just because of the way this is ordered, that we take item 8R out of order, please.
So moved.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Bear with me just a moment.
So I have it up if you want.
Yes, please, because it's going to take me a minute.
Sure. It says, "Dear Board, I am submitting my 2 weeks notice to terminate my position as Veterans Agent. I will stay on in a volunteer status until my replacement is appointed to provide an unbroken chain of assistance to the proud veterans of Dayton. I have enjoyed the assistance of all town departments in the last 7 years and wish everyone well. And it's sincerely yours, Donald Hershey.
With that, I will entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Veterans Agent Don Hershey with thanks and appreciation.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say, discussion.
we're really going to miss you, Don. You've done a great job. We appreciate everything you've done for our veterans and, you know, everything you've done to expand services and even have camaraderie with the breakfasts and that have taken place. So thank you very much.
I guess I will tell, I wasn't planning on it, but I'll tell you what I told Mr. Hershey when I spoke to him the other day. I said, what I appreciated about working with Mr. Hershey the most was that he had a sound understanding of the fact that yes, he was appointed by the Board of Selectmen, but his job was not to serve the Board of Selectmen. His job was to serve the veterans, quite frankly, of Dayton and Berkeley. And all the feedback that I ever got, my father happens to be a veteran. I've heard from other veterans regarding Mr. Hershey, and they all said he was the best veterans agent that we ever had. So I'll take their word for it. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is to discuss the job advertisement for the veterans agent. I did have one change that I had to make. Bear with me just a moment. I'm sure it's at the top here. It was just a very minor change. It was regarding the insertion of the words Dayton and Berkeley veterans, since Berkeley veterans are also serviced by the Dayton veterans agent. And the only other change, let me back up. These changes came directly from Mrs. Pinto, the veterans agent's administrative assistant, and Mr. Hershey himself. So the job advertisement was reviewed by them. So the Ann Berkeley suggestion was Mr. Hershey's, and his other suggestion, which needs to be made, is that the where it says high school diploma or equivalent and veteran status per MGL, it should read Chapter 4, Section 5.7. And we did update the job description accordingly with that information. It didn't change anything in it. It just changed the law that's cited.
So strike chapter 68, section 1?
Yes.
Okay, and going back to the top, it should say the towns of Dayton and Berkeley.
Where I have it is, so that sentence would be the same, I think. It would just say, and provide comprehensive veteran services to Dayton and Berkeley veterans and their dependents.
So how can we hire an agent for Berkeley though? I don't understand that.
Oh, because we have this mutual agreement with Berkeley, whatever Dayton does relative to this position, and this goes back long before I became a FinCom member for that matter. It goes back to, I don't know, it was back in the 90s at least, and maybe even before then, that we just have had this mutual understanding, and Dayton hires the agent and we share duties and we assess them a cost based on a formula or an agreement that we have.
And I want to be, just to piggyback, everything that Selectman Goulart said is correct. I did ask Mr. Hershey about this, and specifically and I asked you as well, Selectman Goulart, because I wasn't here for the inception of this sort of Berkeley-Dayton hybrid. I guess my question to him was, so Dayton chooses, the town of Dayton chooses the veterans agent, Berkeley gets them at a, quite frankly, a steal, because they pay a flat rate, Selectman Pacheco. And by virtue of that, they also get their veterans serviced by use of the veterans van, which they don't have. And so they get a deal because no matter what they do, it's always going to be cheaper, the current system, than if they were to go hire even a part-time veterans agent that just serviced Berkeley. And so I guess, does that help answer your question at all?
I guess, yeah. If it's been obviously I've never hired or never participated in any veterans agent, so I wasn't sure how it happened. I thought they did their own contract with the veterans agent, but
if you think about it, so I before I spoke to Mr. Hershey, Selectman Pacheco, I literally had the same thought as you. I said, how does this work? Like, how is this possible? Like, is Berkeley gonna appoint someone to work 6 hours and they're going to use our van? So this is the way it should work. Like, we do make the decision, it's our van, we're kicking in the bulk of the money, right? And so they get the services without having to pay for their own part-time veterans agent, and they got good service, so it works for them. Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, years ago, we actually had a similar arrangement with Berkeley for our building commissioner. When Joe Lawrence was here as our building inspector, he also provided services, and Berkeley would appoint him, just like they will appoint whoever we hire as the veterans agent.
Sure.
But then, the cost for that was something else that was taken care of. The other thing I will mention to you is, when Dayton, not if, but when Dayton hits 10,000 residents, I believe the law says we have to hire a full-time veterans agent. And right now, both Berkeley and Dayton are under the 10,000 population limit. But just something to remember going down the road, that eventually we're going to have somebody under the law strictly for us.
Any further discussion on this?
No.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the job advertisement with the changes that we discussed to the MGL and the insertion of the Berkeley part.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Under discussion, I did want to ask, and I know this isn't related to our motion, I did speak to Mr. Hershey about staying. I don't want to say staying on, because he's will not be the veterans agent at the end of the 2 weeks. He does want to remain in a volunteer capacity specifically with the Veterans Department to train the next veterans agent. I'm okay with that because the way that Mr. Hershey described it to me was that with some of the prior veterans agent, there wasn't always that person who stayed through to get the new individual trained. And I told him that my personal opinion was that was okay. I also asked him if he was interested in assisting with the selection of the next veterans agent. He said that he was, and he did ask if his administrative assistant, Mrs. Pinto, could be involved in that. I said that seemed reasonable. That's just my personal opinion. But I did want to relay that to the board as well, because I think that's good news that the both of them want to assist in the selection of the successor.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yep.
All right. And then I assumed Mrs. Brady would be the third individual in the room when they go to select candidates. That was just my thought, as she did with the conservation agent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, we have to discuss the proposed dates for the Board of Selectmen's meeting. And bear with me just a second. We have the schedule before us. Does anybody know of any conflicts they may have off the top of their head? I didn't have any, so I was okay with the schedule as it was prepared this evening.
Yeah, I'm okay with the schedule. Like I had indicated before, I'm going to be having surgery on the 23rd of December, and I won't be available to be in person anyway. Hopefully by the 13th, which is about 20 days after the surgery, I'd be able to do a Zoom meeting. And I also suspect we're going to be meeting more often than this, given that we don't have a town administrator at the time, and then we're going to be hiring town administrators. So I'm okay with the schedule. We don't have any vacation plans because we don't know where we can go. So
yeah, same here. Selectman Pacheco, I also wanted to mention to you, even if, let's say, Selectman Goulart and I, at some point in the future in January, I'm just making this up, do return to Old Town Hall, to the meeting room, the board did vote for remote participation. So you are more than welcome to Zoom in it as you see fit, okay?
Yep, I hope to do that. Yep.
Yep. You're welcome.
We know where you live.
Yeah, correct. You better be on the cut. I'm just kidding. Any further discussion on the schedule?
No, I think it's okay. And just like we did this year, as we work through the first 6 months, if we have to make a change, we'll make a change. If somebody has something that comes up, we'll go with it, whatever.
So I'll make a motion that we approve this schedule that's been presented to us.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
I'm just going to make a comment. Since March is relatively open, except we'll be having budget meetings, and I don't know if March would be appropriate, but if we can get this pilot agreement off the ground relatively soon, maybe March is the time to have a special to act on that pilot agreement, but right now that's all up in the air. It's the only thing I can think of that might come up.
I have that in the back of my mind, Selectman Goulart.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did we vote on that?
No.
No.
I didn't think so. All those in I knew I was either going to forget the roll call or the actual vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a memorandum from our executive assistant requesting to release approved executive session minutes. So ones that were approved in executive session. Now we would be voting to release them, and the dates are listed. Before I entertain motions, is everyone okay with this list?
No.
Which dates do you not want to release?
what I would say to you is, I'm going to make a motion that we table all action on releasing executive session minutes until we get the legal opinion from Attorney Gay. I read through these. I have concerns about a number of them because of client-attorney privilege. And I told Mrs. Brady that because of that, I wasn't sure what we should do. So I sent the information to Attorney Gay, and he said, I'm going to get back to you. I sort of agree with you, but I got to check into some things. I got to do a little research. So until Attorney Gay says to us, yes on this one, no on that one, I really don't think we should move ahead. I think it's that important. And again, my main concern is attorney-client privilege, because even though some of these are, well, they're not ancient, but they're older, we have the issues that have not been resolved in some cases. So
That's true.
so that's my motion to table these.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. I just want to be very clear. I'm supporting this because we're waiting for a clarification from legal counsel. If legal counsel does come back and says, obviously you can't, we're advising you, excuse me, not to do this, then we will reconsider. I will put this on the agenda to reconsider at another public meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes, and I copied Mrs. Brady on the correspondence that I've had. So when I get a response, and I think she also gave him additional information. So when that comes back, she'll automatically put it out there on the agenda so you'll know, and we'll have an answer. If it's yes to some and no to some, or whatever. Whatever Attorney Gay determines is fine with me, but I just don't feel comfortable doing it without his recommendation. Some of those meetings, he was actually the attorney that was talking to us. So that's the reason.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the expense. However, I do think it's an important thing that we check this out. Because we can't release minutes.
You can't take it back.
Cause a problem down the road.
Yeah. Once that, maybe this is not the best analogy, but once it's out of the bottle, we can't make them private. Once they're public, they're public. And so I'm okay with just waiting for a legal opinion from counsel to double check everything. So we have a motion to, what was the word? Table.
Table.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is to appoint me as interim municipal building study committee member. I asked for this to be on the agenda simply because I'm going through some things that our previous town administrator was on, committees and things like that. She was a member of this. I don't want to be a long-term member of this, but I do think we need to get the ball rolling and start looking at what options there are. And so I'm asking to be appointed to this simply until we fill the town administrator role, and at which point I will be off and will apprise them of everything that has been happening with the committee.
I want to make a motion that Dr. Brett Sografis be appointed as an interim municipal building study committee member.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Do we think he's qualified?
Probably not. No, just kidding. You
take
can probably
the
find
same
someone better, honestly.
Not that neither of us are going to volunteer.
Yeah, no one wants to do it.
Just a comment.
Sure.
Dr. Z, I know you're being not overwhelmed, but you're doing a lot of the work that a town administrator was doing in the past. So I know as a member of the board, I appreciate it. I'm hoping that by the next time we appoint a chairperson, we do have a town administrator, but if not, that person is going to have to take on the same responsibility. But I'm sure, and Mrs. Goulart would say the same, that if you need us for anything that we can do,
absolutely,
we're available. I keep on, when I go to the town hall, I keep on asking Karen and Leanne if they need me for anything, and they say, no, we're all set, we're all set. But don't be afraid to delegate.
Thank you. I'll be honest, I don't anticipate much work from this at all. I simply, we're going to organize the committee and they're going to start looking at things. I don't anticipate I'll be doing much of anything unless asked, of course. If I'm needed, I will, but I appreciate that. Any further discussion on this?
No, Mr. Pacheco and I are just glad to get the kid trained.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, excuse me. I take that back. That is not an aye for me. I'm going to actually abstain. Opposed? Abstentions? I'm abstaining. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is to appoint Chief McGee to the Municipal Building Study Committee. And so it would be myself as interim. Mr. McGee's been appointed. Mr. Rendon, so sort of capital outlay / finance is represented. Who am I missing? And Mr. McGee, is that 4? The 2 McGee's. Mr. Aguirre, I missed Mr. Aguirre. He's also on it. That would be 5.
So I'm going to make a motion that Chief Christopher McGee be appointed to the Municipal Building Study Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. And again, so just for the public, what this committee is doing is just exploring different options for several facilities that need some sort of improvement or expansion or a whole new building. So they're going to look at different options and then advise on what the best path forward for each facility will be. So I just wanted to put that back into perspective on what this role is. Any further discussion?
No, that's good because the 5-year plan that I have with Highway and Fire Department both have potential either, a new building in the case of Highway and either a new building or additions to fire stations. So this is good. This is important.
Absolutely. Anything else before we take a vote, team?
Nope.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have on the agenda to appoint Steve Mullen to the Human Rights Committee.
So I've looked at Steve Mullen's resume as well as Roberto. So I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Steve Mullen to the Human Rights Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. What I will say about Mr. Mullen is I've gotten to know him better recently. He's a newer resident to Dayton, not entirely. I think he's lived here a few years. And his enthusiasm and willingness to get involved in his sort of newer community was very refreshing. And I think he and Roberto will be great additions to the Human Rights Committee. So very happy.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Steve Mullen says he's applying for the Agricultural Commission.
So I spoke to him personally and asked him about that. There is a drop down when you fill an electronic volunteer form on the website. An Agricultural Commission is the first because it's alphabetical. So if you don't change that and select Human Rights Committee or whatever committee you're interested, that's the one that gets sent.
Okay.
I asked him, I said, I thought you were applying for the Human Rights Committee. So he just didn't use the drop down menu.
Okay.
And there are no vacancies on AgCom, so that's how I knew to reach out to him.
Okay.
Any further discussion on Mr. Mullen's appointment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And next, the appointment of Roberto Font to the Human Rights Committee.
I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Roberto Font to the Human Rights Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
No, he as well as the other candidate, they're very good, and they'll really be assets to the committee. So I'm glad that they both have an interest in joining the committee.
Me too, Selectman Pacheco. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, or last under new business, is to accept the resignation with thanks and appreciation of Richard Olney Jones from the Human Rights Committee.
So moved.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just want to make a comment, as you can see by the letter, that because of circumstances, he's moving out of town. I understand why he's leaving. I would have liked to have him to be on the committee, obviously, but he's not going to be living in town anymore. So we're losing a good member. The other thing is I want to say is that my dog's been staring at me. He's ready to go to bed. So if we can speed things up here, Abby would appreciate it.
I'm staring at myself ready to go to bed, Selectman Pacheco. Any further discussion? Or did we vote on this?
No.
Not yet.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Selectmen's report. Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a written report that'll be longer than this, but I'm just going to give you a quick summary tonight. Capital costs to be assessed for the building project at the Aggie School. FY '21. There will be payments coming up. That can't be right. It says November. I'm not sure if that's even come in yet or not, but the number is $55,979.21, and the same number due in May. We need, Mrs. Brady, we need to make a note to find out if we were billed or have been billed yet for FY '21. This is under the county tax rate. The other thing we need to be aware of is for budgeting for FY '22. We should have something that says, depending upon whether or not this has actually happened yet, whether or not we will need to budget capital expenditures for Bristol Aggie School when we do the FY '22 budget. Okay. The total budget that was approved, county budget that was approved the other night, we actually had a total of 76% in attendance, both in present and in Zoom. We met in the Gilbert Hall, which is the big gymnasium over there. Total budgets approved from all operations. This is, jails and courthouses and registries and all that. $23,272,437.84. The actual, excuse me, that number I read you, those are the county assessments. So I know we've gotten those already. What I wanted to say to you is they voted, I should say they're looking at, under the debt assessment for FY '22, they're looking at a 30-year bond with a 2% rate, a 30-year bond with a 2.5% rate, and a 30-year bond with a 3% rate. The total project is $103,750,000. And of that amount, $51,242,655 is going to be covered through a school building assistance grant. And the communities in the county will be assessed over a period of 30 years. A total of $52,507,345. So that's basically a recap. It was a financial meeting. We went through all of that stuff. We approved some contracts, and I will include that information in the summary that I will prepare. I will give it to Mrs. Brady, and she can send it out for you and put it in the record for informational purposes. We approved 3 collective bargaining agreements, all for 3 years. And all 3 years for all of those contracts were with 2% increases. The city of Taunton voted no on all of the collective bargaining agreements. I don't know why, but other than that, everything else moved right along.
Any questions for Selectman Goulart regarding her report?
Nope.
I do not either. Selectman Goulart, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
And thank you for your advocacy for the project as a member of the advisory board as well.
Oh, I was re-elected clerk again.
Oh, good.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Clerk of the executive board. We had to reorganize because it was the first meeting since our annual meeting. And again, it was the same offices. Joe Pacheco, selectman from Rainham, is chair of the executive board of the advisory committee. I'm the clerk, and Skip Badney from Rehoboth was elected member. So there's a 3-member executive board that is like the governing board of the advisory board. So anyhow.
Congratulations, I
Thank
think.
you.
Okay, under minutes, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting of November 4th, 2020.
As I indicated before, I didn't get all the minutes. I got every other page, so I'm not.
Let's
prepared
skip.
to-
You want to skip this one?
I would like to skip this one.
Okay,
November 4th.
I will entertain a motion to table 12A.
So move.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. I will entertain motions to accept for review the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting of November 18th, 2020, the Finance Committee's regular meeting of October 29th, 2020, of which the Board of Selectmen were present, and the minutes of the Finance Committee's regular meeting of November 4th, 2020, of which we were all present.
I so move.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Selectman Goulart, roll call.
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the warrant. Selectman Goulart?
Under 11, were there any acknowledgements?
There are none.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 22A-21 in the amount of $92,206.24. Payroll, 22B-21 in the amount of $18,597.48. Payroll, and 22C-21, the amount of $156,932.83. Accounts payable, all dated November 25th, be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 23A-21 in the amount of $99,053.16 payroll. 23B-21 in the amount of $11,539.39, and 23C-21, the amount of $82,186.61, the last two being accounts payable dated December the 2nd, be approved.
Before I second it, can we have a roll call on the previous motion?
Roll call? Roll
Aye.
call. I
Aye.
said it like a question. Aye.
I'll second the motion that Mrs. Goulart just stated.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's it for the warrants. Next, we have public input, and it's only us. So I will entertain at this point a motion to enter into executive session. Actually, before I do that, Mrs. Brady, did we receive any electronic voicemails or any? I don't have any Zoom public input. Do you have anything from email?
I do not.
I don't either. Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, numbers 1 and 6. 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charge against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. A, update on fines issued in dog mauling incident. And 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. I do declare. A, discuss land takings and easements for Boat Ramp Road. And B, update on AstraZeneca land donation.
So
I
moved.
so move. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion carries. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Everyone, have a wonderful evening, even though there's no one else on. And be safe out there.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.